Hi everyone, please subscribe to my channel. Blood Immortal. See playlist for other chapters and novels. Join now our Telegram channel now and enjoy exclusive early access. t.me/blood_immortal_official. I do not translate the novels. Credits goes to original translator and author of the novel. I only make it as an audiobook so it would be easier to just listen while doing other things. Credits goes to the author of the novel. I convert stories to audiobook for mental health, for multitasking purpose, for accessibility and time saving. Listening to audiobook is also beneficial for people who have disability. It improves our listening skills and improve our English comprehension, vocabulary and other things. So, thank you for listening. Thank you and thank you very much for your support. Chapter 721. A Palm to Reign Over the World. Chapter 721. A Palm to Reign Over the World. Big words. The Green and White Emperor Technique. All of a sudden, a bright burst of light shone out as the power vortices began to enlarge. From these power vortices, beams of green light that formed up like banners shot out, dragging the entire world into them. Boom! An encompassing giant palm plummeted down from the sky. Each finger contained a tremendous amount of energy of their own as a series of dragons of power were coiled around those fingertips, howling, growling, and devouring. Now that Lin Fan was in this cultivation state, he no longer needed any stance. Every single move he made encompassed all of his skills. With all to one, a myriad of skills was triggered and used with a single thought of his. Crack! The 5 fingers of the palms disrupted the world. Those mighty powerful vortices began to burst upon making contact with Lin Fan's fingers, without any room for resistance. Squeezing his fingers together, it was as though Lin Fan was squeezing the entire world within his hands. Looking at this, the Green Emperor was astonished. He could not believe that this man before him would be able to suppress all of his moves. Impossible. The blood drained from the Green Emperor's face. Turning his body around, an infinite amount of green light streaked forth, turning into many figures of the Green Emperor's spirit. Each of these spirits of the Green Emperor possessed a divine celestial level 4 cultivation state of their own. Grouped together, they were like an immense formation. They were mythical, with an unparalleled divine might. However, for Lin Fan, they were nothing more than paper tigers. What's impossible? Lie down for yours truly. Lin Fan slapped out once more, and the countless spirits of the Green Emperor exploded without resistance. In fact, they didn't even have the chance to cry out. Bam! The guarded ground quaked as the Green Emperor was slammed down onto the ground by Lin Fan's palm strike. His entire body was ruptured, with fresh blood spraying out everywhere. HMPH. Acting so brazenly before yours truly with just that bit of strength. Courting death. Lin Fan stamped down on the body of the Green Emperor with a look of disdain in his eyes. Boom! The crowd exploded into disbelief as they stared wide-eyed at everything before them. They had not expected that incomparably strong Green Emperor to fall within 3 moves of the other party. How could they believe this? The Green Emperor has lost. How can this be? The Green Emperor is a divine celestial level 8 state being. The ultimate skill of the Green Emperor is a top-tiered skill as well. At the same time, his universal elixir is way stronger than any average divine celestial level 8 state beings. This is big, this is big. Now that this revolutionary army has stomped down on 3 big parties, their uprising is not to be stopped. All of these people who were belittling the revolutionary army earlier on were coming to understand that the rise of the revolutionary army was guaranteed. It was just that their uprising resulted in them obtaining 3 strong enemies as well. The Berserk Dragon Party and Sword God Party were still alright to deal with. The issue was this Green Emperor party here. Beast, let me go, I'm going to kill you. At this moment, the Green Emperor who had maintained his composure could not do so any longer. Now that he was stepped on by someone, how could he tolerate that? His expression was extremely malevolent right now. Lu Qiangwei's eyeballs seemed as though they were about to pop out. She was about to go silly right now. To think that this incomparably strong Green Emperor would be trampled beneath his feet. This was inconceivable. Kill me, ho ho. Initially, yours truly had only intended to teach you a lesson and spare your life. But, since you've triggered your killing intent towards yours truly, I guess I can't keep you any longer. But then again, the heavens are merciful. Yours truly isn't one to kill indiscriminately. How about this? Yours truly will train you up to be my slave, so that you can heed my beck and calls. Lin Fan chuckled out. However, for everyone else, this chuckle was ever so frightening. Train as a slave, that's even worse than killing the Green Emperor. That's right, now that things had come down to this, why hasn't the overseer appeared yet? Guys, look, He's here. Using one's powers to settle private duels is forbidden in the guarded ground. The Revolutionary Army has broken the order of the guarded ground, and in theory, should be purged. A solemn voice broke through the void and rang out. The moment they heard this, everyone could not help but heave a sigh of relief. All was good now that the overseer was here. At the same time, the moment they heard that the Revolutionary Army was to be purged, they calmed down. It was also a sort of responsibility towards the other parties of the guarded ground that a party like this which would fight over any disagreement would be purged. HMPH. Is a mere little overseer like you someone who can interfere in the way the Revolutionary Army conducts its business? Lin Fan's eyes were fixed on the overseer as his domineering aura gushed out. Spreading his fingers wide, he grabbed at the world. Come on down. Within a single breath, Lin Fan's fingers seeped into the void and dragged out the overseer from within forcefully. Insolent, the overseer was enraged. To think that there would be such an audacious fellow within the guarded ground. The surrounding observers looked at how Lin Fan would dare to strike out at the overseer and were completely rooted. Mad. This man must be mad. Benefactor. Here he goes again. Reverend Shakia could not help but sigh out at everything before him. Each time there was an affair for a major act, Benefactor Lin would always seize it. There was no chance for this poor monk to flaunt at all. Our party leader is so formidable. He even has the guts to whack the overseer. That's our Revolutionary Army. That's the domineering way the Revolutionary Army should behave. At this moment, I'm even about to cry. Grabbing the overseer in his hands, Lin Fan rolled his eyes. So, you're the one who wants to purge the Revolutionary Army of yours truly. Yours truly wants to ask, who's the one who gave you such guts? The overseer had not expected to meet such an overbearing person within the guarded ground. At this moment, he could not help but fly into a rage. Guardian spirits, grab this man. Boom, that initially peaceful void began to tremble as streams of light shone down from the heavens. These are the guardian spirits of the guarded ground. No matter the cultivation state of this man, he would definitely be trapped within. This is it for him. That's right, no matter how strong his cultivation state is, he wouldn't be able to struggle out at all. A few thousand years ago, there was a divine celestial level 10, eternal God state being who had dared to act brazenly within the guarded ground. Eventually, he was subdued by the guardian spirits of the guarded ground without being able to fight back at all. The streams of light shone down like banners and caged the members of the Revolutionary Army within. At the same time, the biggest stream of light was headed for Lin Fan. Looking at these guardian spirits, Lin Fan had a strange expression. The aura of these guardian spirits was weird. Ah, let me go. Party leader, save me. Benefactor, what's up with this? This poor monk can't move at all. Reverend Shakia was trussed up without being able to fight back at all. He was helpless right now. This thickest stream of light from the guardian spirits was akin to a gigantic colossal dragon rumbling within. All of a sudden, it tied Lin Fan up. However, the startling thing for Lin Fan was that he couldn't resist against the leash at all, no matter how he tried. In fact, he couldn't even channel his powers. It was as though he was being sealed up. The Revolutionary Army has disrupted the order of the guarded ground. The crimes are severe. They shall be whipped 10,000 times before being cast out. The overseer boomed out in anger. There was no way he could tolerate such brazen individuals at all. Ha ha. At this moment, Ni Kuanglong and Feng Wuxuang burst out laughing. November LBJNN. There was no one who could ever break free from the grasp of the guardian spirits. Even if your powers were supreme, so what? You still had to bear with the punishment. He asked for this. To think that he would dare to act so audaciously within the guarded ground. Does he really think he's number one in the world? If he could bear with it a little, he could easily shine in this place. However, by the way things are now, even if he didn't die, he's going to be flogged skinless. At this moment, Lin Fan's motion was locked up with his hands and feet. He took in a deep breath. Guardian spirits, let go of yours truly. Do you guys know who yours truly is? Are you guys courting death? Lin Fan bellowed out while his eyes were burning with a fiery rage. Ha ha, has this human gone stupid? To think that he would ask the guardian spirits to let him go. Does he not know that the guardian spirits are the most righteous of them all? That's right, he's a country bumpkin indeed. Once you're trapped by the guardian spirits, you don't ever dream of breaking free. Ni Kuanglong sneered coldly. The overseer laughed in his heart as well. If he wanted the guardian spirits of the guarded ground to let go, the only way would be for the guardian himself to appear. But just at this moment, everyone opened their eyes wide and yelled out in disbelief. Impossible. Chapter 722. This poor monk thinks not. Chapter 722. This poor monk thinks not. November LBJNN. The guardian spirits of the guarded ground were created together with the ground itself. They possessed intellect, but they bore a heavy responsibility. This holler of Lin Fan had everyone laughing out. This guy was practically retarded. But all of a sudden, the crowd discovered in shock that the guardian spirit was actually letting loose. As though it was a swimming dragon, it floated before Lin Fan. How could this be? Why would the guardian spirits let him go? Ni Kuanglong looked at everything before him in shock as he revealed a face of disbelief. Catching sight of everything before him, Feng Wuhuang nearly spat out blood as well. When he saw how this fellow was subdued by the guardian spirits, despite being hateful in his heart, Feng Wuhuang still felt an unusual amount of joy. But, to think that the guardian spirits would let this guy go just like that. Impossible, impossible. Feng Wuhuang's eyes were flushed red right now. Ha ha, Lin Fan burst out laughing. So, this was the Mother Sea King way things worked. Seemed like this old man still had some humanity left in him. The overseer could not help but stumble back. His face tensed up. He has disrupted the order of the guarded ground. Guardian spirits, subdue him. The overseer was granted the authority to activate and make use of the guardian spirits should anyone powerful and strong choose to disrupt the laws and harmony of the guarded ground. But at this moment, no matter how the overseer tried commanding, the guardian spirit just floated before Lin Fan's face without moving at all. This was perplexing. Retard, stop calling out. Who is yours truly? Yours truly is the party leader of the Revolutionary Army, the Mother Sea King Human King. Someone like you and you think you can take down yours truly. That's a fool's dream. From now on, who else dares to come forth and go against the Revolutionary Army insolently? Guardian spirits, let go of everyone from the Revolutionary Army. Lin Fan raised his hand gently and called out calmly. Pishu, 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 what's going on? How did the party leader do it? To think that the guardian spirits would obey our party leader. This is way too incredible. Long live our party leader. Long live the Revolutionary Army. Everyone from the Revolutionary Army was abnormally happy right now as they let out excited looks. They had thought that they were going to be cast out of the guarded ground. To think that their party leader would be this powerful that even the guardian spirits would obey him. To them, the party leader was the party leader indeed. He was the idol in the hearts of many. Lu Qiangwei's beautiful eyes darted all around. This man before her was filled with a deep sense of mystery from head to toe. Even till now, she had no idea why the guardian spirits would listen to the words of this human being. Guardian spirits, subdue him. The overseer roared out. However, even if he were to destroy his throat with his screams, the guardian spirits wouldn't move at all. So obedient, Lin Fan stretched out his hand as though he was fondling the head of a 3-year-old. Guardian spirit, connate spirit of the guarded ground, possess the intellect of a 6-year-old and a pure heart. Wishes that someone would take him out on a tour of the pugilistic world. Ding, do you wish to conduct an in-depth interaction with the guardian spirit? Yes. At this moment, as though the guardian spirit was being fondled by Lin Fan to the point of pleasure, it shuddered momentarily. The moment everyone saw this, their eyes widened up as though they had just seen a ghost. As for Lin Fan, he came to a place which was filled with brightness all over. At this place stood a chubby little Shota. He stared at the skies as those big sparkly eyes of his were filled with an endless thirst within them. Outside, guardian spirits, subdue this man. Guardian spirits. The overseer was about to break down right now. In the past, he could clearly control the guardian spirits. To think that they would disobey his orders. He was someone who was gifted the authority by the guardian himself. Stop calling out to the guardian spirits. Lin Fan had recovered and was sporting a smile on his face. Lin Fan pointed out with his finger, guardian spirit, take down this hypocritical cheap man. PSHEW. A bright light flashed out as the guardian spirit sprinted forth like a dragon. It then tied up the overseer instantly, rendering him motionless entirely. Ah, why has it come to this? What's happening? The overseer's face was pale right now. He had not expected to be tied up by the guardian spirits himself. This was something that had never ever happened before. All of the surrounding bystanders let out a look of incredulity. Just what kind of a man was this? How could the guardian spirits possibly obey his words? How about now? I wonder if you've got any other plans. Lin Fan placed his hands behind his back as he grinned at the overseer. What sort of demonic sorcery have you resorted to? The overseer looked at Lin Fan in a deranged manner. He did not know why the guardian spirits would not respond to his commands. Ho ho, demonic sorcery, yours truly is the envoy of justice. Someone who resembles the demons and ghosts such as yourself would naturally find yourself being unable to command the guardian spirits. Lin Fan smiled out calmly as he walked over to the Green Emperor. Coming before the Green Emperor, Lin Fan squatted down and patted that pale face of the Green Emperor. "Oh, my dear Green Emperor, what's with you? Do you need me to call someone over for you?" The Green Emperor's face was in shock right now as an endless wrath was boiling in his heart. To think that he wasn't a match for this fella at all. "Be-starred, what do you want?" the Green Emperor blared out in rage. As a divine celestial level 8, universal elixir state being, he could naturally heal up his injuries with a single thought of his. However, there was a surge of energy that was wreaking havoc within his body, tearing it apart from within. And, he knew that this B***starred before him must be the reason for it. Naturally, yours truly wants to. Lin Fan was a man of his words. If he said that he was going to kill one's entire family, he was going to kill them all. Now that he said he was going to train up the Green Emperor as his slave, he was going to train up the Green Emperor as his slave. However, at this moment, Lin Fan received a telepathic message in his mind. This was something that no one else would be able to receive. "My dear obedient disciple, this is enough." Lin Fan rolled his eyes before nodding in agreement eventually. He knew that the reason why he could control the guardian spirits was all because of that old man, Feng Qingzi. Now that Feng Qingzi had spoken up, what else could he do? What other choice was there now that he was someone else's disciple? Who could understand the pain of being under someone else? At this moment, Feng Qingzi was exasperated as well. Did he actually gain a disciple or did he gain a troublemaker? Gosh, the moment this Mother CKER came to the guarded ground, he caused such tremendous affairs to break out. This guy was leaving no chance for others at all. However, there was one plus point that Feng Qingzi saw in this disciple of his. He took in everyone without discriminating at all. Feng Qingzi was the one who set down the rules of the parties. He had hoped that the powerful beings would take the weaker ones under their wings and progress together. It was a good idea to have. However, the way it progressed had some disappointing changes. The weaker beings ended up having no parties to join at all while the stronger ones only took in strong members. This was something that Feng Qingzi could do nothing about. However, with the appearance of Lin Fan, he was starting to see some hope. And just at this moment, Feng Qingzi realized that this disciple of his was actually communicating with the guardian spirits. Initially, he had wanted to check this out for himself. However, he discovered that the guardian spirits had broken free from their restrictions and had isolated out their consciousness. Therefore, he did not know what was going on at all. However, he didn't think that this would be much of an issue. The guardian spirits were connate spirits with a pure heart. Any nefarious acts by them wouldn't escape from his watch at all. If this disciple of his wanted to subdue those guardian spirits under his wings, that would be something impossible. "Young ones, your party leader here wants to train this guy up as a slave. Do you guys have any suggestions?" Lin Fan stood up and looked at the masses. Naturally, the Revolutionary Army could not know what Lin Fan was planning right now. The moment they heard that he was going to train the Green Emperor as his slave, they were already excited beyond words. "We've got no suggestions. If we can really train the Green Emperor into our slave, that would be way too domineering." That's right, that's right. Our Revolutionary Army is simply way too strong. The Green Emperor is a slave. This is something I wouldn't have imagined in my entire life. Reverend Shakia nodded his head in agreement as well. This was quite the imposing to do after all. However, he suddenly realized the knowing look that was sending a message out from Benefactor Lin. His heart jerked instantly. There's something in that gaze. Something must be off. Reverend Shakia looked in all directions as he focused his heart. Sensing any fart that was blown out from Benefactor Lin, Reverend Shakia could even tell what he ate with just a single sniff. Amitabha, this poor monk thinks not. At this moment, Reverend Shakia stood out. All of a sudden, everyone's gazes flushed towards Reverend Shakia. Bald monk, what not? Lin Fan was gleeful in his heart. Seemed like this bald monk knew him the best. Chapter 723, You're unworthy of being a slave. Chapter 723, You're unworthy of being a slave. Reverend Shakia's expression changed as he stepped out and cast a glance at Lin Fan, grinning slightly. At this crucial moment, your poor monk here is the only one who understands you, benefactor. Lin Fan shuddered momentarily. That expression from the bald monk earlier on was a little cringy. Benefactor, this poor monk feels that the Green Emperor is not worthy of joining our revolutionary army as a slave. Reverend Shakia's words were harsh and direct. The moment his words came out, everyone was stumped. This was a brutal face smack. What sort of a powerful being is the Green Emperor? This was a divine celestial level 8, universal elixir state being. At the same time, he was the party leader of one of the top 3 parties of the entire guarded ground. Everything aside, if they could train this guy up to be their slave, how much respect would that garner? Everyone from the Revolutionary Army were stunned as they could not understand the meaning behind the words of their vice party leader. How was this mighty strong Green Emperor not worthy? What do you mean? Lin Fan acted as though he could not understand and asked puzzledly. Party leader, what sort of an existence is our Revolutionary Army? We're people who could even suppress the sovereign King Thunder and shoulder an immense burden with us. Even though the strength of this Green Emperor is pretty decent, from all other aspects, he is simply unqualified. Reverend Shakia elaborated. The moment the members of the Revolutionary Army heard this, they puffed their chests and arched their heads in pride. To think that the Green Emperor wasn't even worthy to be a slave at all. Then, being members of the Revolutionary Army, wasn't this the utmost glory? Yes, that makes sense as well. Since that's the case, we shall forget it then. Lin Fan nodded his head silently. He then looked over at the Green Emperor. Count yourself lucky this time around. You're too weak to be deserving of our Revolutionary Army's expectations. You had better open up your eyes wide in future. Know who you can offend and who you can't. Know your place. The moment the Green Emperor heard this, he spat out a mouthful of blood. To think that he would be ridiculed by this Revolutionary Army once more. Lin Fan looked at the surrounding. Everyone else nearby was speechless while their eyes revealed looks of shock. He then waved his hand widely and said, "Let's go. B****, let me go." The overseer was screaming right now as he was tied up from head to toe by the guardian spirit, rendering him motionless. However, there was nothing he could do at all towards this situation right now. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Everyone walked out majestically with their chests puffed high. The masses made a path for them instantly. The strength of this revolutionary army was something they had just witnessed for themselves. Everyone understood that from this day forth, the revolutionary army would become a strong party within the guarded ground, one that wasn't to be easily trifled with. Even the Green Emperor is defeated. Which other party could hold down the revolutionary army? What about the Raging Desolate Party? I doubt that even the Raging Desolate Party can do anything to them. The momentum of the revolutionary army is set right now, and is practically unshakable. The Green Emperor's eyes were filled with hatred as he tilted his head up into the sky and roared out, venting all the indignance in his heart. In the eyes of everyone present, the Green Emperor was really pitiable. In the blink of an eye, he had completely lost his dignity. How else was he going to reign within the guarded ground in the future? The affairs at the public square of the mission area spread like wildfire in the entire place. Within a short period of time, everyone in the guarded ground knew about this revolutionary army. They did not know where this revolutionary army spouted out from. However, to think that even the Green Emperor, Berserk Dragon Party, and the Sword God Party would be defeated by them. For everyone out there, this was some explosive and sensational news. Lad, you can't play like that in the future anymore. Feng Qingzi came to look for Lin Fan. Seeing this situation, he was quite exasperated. This disciple of his was truly too good at causing trouble. However, Feng Qingzi was a little surprised over this affair. The potential of the Green Emperor was decent. But, to think that he would fall under 3 moves of his disciple. That was a little astonishing. Old man, you've finally bothered to appear. Without giving me anything at all, can you still be considered a revered master? In his consciousness, Lin Fan was making a stand against Feng Qingzi telepathically. Evidently, he was somewhat displeased. Disciple, it's not right from you now. Didn't you say that a master can only show you the way but the cultivation of one depends on oneself? Why are you blaming me now? Feng Qingzi chuckled out. Holy FCK, old man. And, you're not embarrassed saying that? You tricked me. There was nothing within those 2 storage rings at all. Lin Fan said. Feng Qingzi sniggered out, had I ever said that there were things within those storage rings? All of a sudden, Lin Fan was speechless. This time around, he was really scammed thoroughly by this old man. But never mind, at least, this guy had a conscience and knew to come out and give him some face under those circumstances. Now that you've formed a party, I suppose that you should have a base to yourself. Given your current contribution points, there's no way you can possess a base with that. But, Since I'm your revered master, I would definitely give you some benefits. So, I'm here to gift you a base. Feng Qingzi swept his robes as a stream of light flew out. Thank you, revered master. Lin Fan chuckled out as he looked at the token in his hands. Revered master, you're not going to give me some treasures or something? One would be a fool not to take advantage of this. At this moment, Lin Fan had a good mind to earn something out of this. Your master here is feeling a slight headache. I think I've got to head back and rest. Good luck on your own. You don't have to miss your master. Ciao. The moment Feng Qingzi heard this, he clutched at his head and waved his hand before leaving immediately. This old man, Lin Fan sighed. What a scammer. Benefactor, where should we go now? Reverend Shakia asked. Lin Fan smiled out calmly and waved the token in his hands. Let's go to our very own base. Upon arriving at the base, Lin Fan checked out the state of the surroundings and nodded his head in satisfaction. Now that Lin Fan was in this guarded ground, he would naturally have to do some stuff. The fact that contribution points could be used to exchange for items was pretty decent. Therefore, the thing he needed to do right now was to acquire more contribution points. Have all of the members gathered. We're going to do something big. Lin Fan ordered. Yes, party leader. Right now, Zhao Xiaomao could be considered as the sidekick disciple of Lin Fan. The moment he heard that they were going to do something big, he was extremely excited. Public square of the base, N-O-V-E in .C Ohm. 100+ members stood there in an orderly manner. Lin Fan stood on an elevated platform with Reverend Shakia by his side. Looking at this structured party of his, Lin Fan nodded his head in satisfaction. The members of the Revolutionary Army looked at Lin Fan with full focus. This man standing on the platform was the idol of their hearts. And now that they had joined the Revolutionary Army, this was an unparalleled glory for them. Lin Fan coughed gently. Now that the Revolutionary Army is formed up, it's time for us to do something big. With Zhao Xiaomao as the lead, you guys shall head to the missions, public square to take on missions. As long as it's earth-tiered and above, we're going to take them all. Our Revolutionary Army is going to cover all missions, big or small. Yes, party leader. Everyone hurrahed in a cheer with high spirits. Alright, from tomorrow onwards, the Revolutionary Army shall officially set sail. At the same time, you guys can tell people around you that the Revolutionary Army's doors are always open for them. They can join the Revolutionary Army to reach the peak of their lives. Right now, Lin Fan wanted to strengthen the Revolutionary Army. It didn't matter whether they were powerful beings or not. That meant nothing. So what if they were strong? Could they ever be stronger than he was? And, even if it were a piece of trash, Lin Fan could easily nurture him into a genius. Chapter 724, Hong Jingtian. Chapter 724, Hong Jingtian. The next day, the mission's public square was bustling with life. Most of the living beings here were fervently discussing about what had transpired the previous day. Some of the living beings would not have believed this unless they had witnessed it for themselves. However, the way everyone was discussing it so heatedly had them buying into it as the truth eventually as well. Look at these guys. They're dressed really weirdly. When some people at the mission's public square looked up into the distance, they saw a bunch of living beings wearing a skin suit in red, blue, and white. They remarked curiously. Isn't that the uniform of the Revolutionary Army? Revolutionary Army? Could that be the strong party that was formed yesterday? That's for sure. I've witnessed the might their party for myself. Not only is their party leader strong, even the members of the Revolutionary Army are extremely powerful. Even the Berserk Dragon Party and the Sword God Party were no match for them. Excuse me, the Revolutionary Army is here to take on missions. Any irrelevant individuals, please do us the favor of making way. Zhao Xiaomao's chest was puffed up high right now, brimming with pride. Ever since he had joined the Revolutionary Army, he felt as though he was on cloud 9. No matter where he went, he was the center of attention. All of those people who had been queuing up at the window and had witnessed the events of yesterday made way immediately and hurriedly. For them, the Revolutionary Army was way too strong. There was no going against them at all. Hurry up and make way. The Revolutionary Army is here to collect missions. Let them collect it first. Based on what? This is the guarded ground where everyone is equal. So what if the Revolutionary Army is strong? If they were to fight us, even the Overseer would not spare them. Enough with that. Even the Overseer was FCKED by them yesterday. Spare your A*S. That can't be, right? Absolutely. Everyone from the Revolutionary Army came before the missions, counter majestically. Zhao Xiaomao's brows furrowed. We're here to accept missions. The chick at the counter in charge of accepting missions took a look at these people with a weird expression. She had received a notification that should the Revolutionary Army wish to take on missions, they would not be charged a deposit fee. For this chick, this was the first time she was coming across such an exception rule that was made in the guarded ground. Once the members of the Revolutionary Army left, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. To them, the Revolutionary Army was way too scary. However, more than that, they wanted to join the Revolutionary Army personally. That was because the might of the Revolutionary Army was something that they had witnessed for themselves. If they could join the Revolutionary Army, they would have a safeguard for themselves. But just at this moment, a cry of shock rang out. What? There are no more missions that are Earth-tiered and above. The living being's face changed in evident disbelief. The Revolutionary Army that had just arrived had taken all of them. The chick replied helplessly. This was the first time something as such had happened. These guys were beasts. How could this be the way? Now that there are no more missions, what are we supposed to do? That's right. The Revolutionary Army may be strong, but they can't possibly just take all the missions, right? Can they even manage all of them? Highs. Seems like we can only take on those missions Earth-tiered and below then. Once the time limit is up for those missions 2 days later, we'll come and take them later on. This piece of news spread really quickly into the ears of big and small parties alike. This Revolutionary Army is really way too much. Do they really take themselves as gods? But, what can we even do now? Right now, there's only the Green Emperor party that's remaining in the guarded ground. Even so, the Green Emperor has already been defeated by the Revolutionary Army, and has disappeared to God knows where. Seems like we can only await the return of the Raging Desolate Party. They're just incurring the wrath of the masses. Damn it, Revolutionary Army. The moment the Green Emperor heard of the actions of the Revolutionary Army, his eyes shone with a deep hatred as he left this place without a sound. N-O-V-E in .C Ohm. At the public square, Lin Fan was leading his Revolutionary Army out to go execute the missions. 300 Earth-tiered missions with varying difficulties. However, this was all acceptable for Lin Fan. While most other people would deem it as impossible for any party to complete 300 missions in 2 days, for Lin Fan, it was nothing more than a possible attempt. Benefactor, are we biting off more than we can chew? 300 missions. This is going to be the death of us. Reverend Shakia commented. Reverend Shakia did not know what else to say any longer. This was 300 Earth-tiered missions they were talking about here. Even the simplest one of them all would have them facing up with a powerful being of divine celestial level 5 state and above. If it were just one mission, then it wouldn't be anything at all, and could be completed with ease. But to complete 300 in 2 days? This was just impossible. How would we know if we don't give it a shot? Lin Fan chuckled. Shing. Just at this moment, the light screen at the public square shimmered a little. The Raging Desolate Party is back. Seems like the Raging Desolate Party have completed their mission. The Raging Desolate Party took on a heaven-tiered middle-graded mission that concerned the Sovereign King Heaven Frost. Now that they are back, does it mean that the Raging Desolate Party has successfully subdued the Sovereign King Heaven Frost? Haha, we're in for a show now. To think that the Revolutionary Army would bump into the Raging Desolate Party at this time. All of a sudden, the atmosphere at the public square became tense. At this moment, Lin Fan's footsteps came to a halt, as a group of people appeared before him. While they were reigning in their auras, Lin Fan could still sense the power that was brimming from that hidden aura within this group of people. The party leader of the Raging Desolate Party, Hong Jingtian, was the #1 strongest being in the guarded ground. At this moment, Hong Jingtian's cloak was fluttering along with the breeze. His eyes were sharp, with an extraordinary might exuding from him. Every single step he took was akin to a mountain crushing down on anybody standing nearby. Not only was Hong Jingtian's aura astounding, the auras of all the members were equally extraordinary. The lowest cultivation state amongst them was Divine Celestial Level 7, all to one state. Within the guarded ground, this could be considered a monstrous existence. Everyone held their breaths. They did not know what would happen if the Revolutionary Army and the Raging Desolate Party were to bump into one another. Hong Jingtian, let me go. An enraged howl boomed out, catching the attention of everyone present. That's the Sovereign King Heaven Frost. At this moment, the Sovereign King Heaven Frost was in a terrible state. Both of his arms were chopped off, with a thin layer of magic surrounding the wound area. It seemed as though that magic was repressing the Sovereign King Heaven Frost, preventing him from regenerating his limbs. HMPH. Hong Jingtian snorted coldly. An imprint with a golden glow burst forth from Hong Jingtian's mouth as it revolved continuously before eventually pushing itself deep into the body of the sovereign King Heaven Frost. Bam, bam, a series of explosions boomed out from the body of the sovereign King Heaven Frost. All of a sudden, the aura of the sovereign King Heaven Frost withered as though he had just received a terrible blow. At this point, Hong Jingtian came beside Lin Fan and sized him up calmly. Lin Fan raised his head and grinned back in return. The two men stared at one another. All of a sudden, a massive aura erupted out from both men. Everyone's faces changed as though they themselves were being pushed back by a boundless force. All of their faces were really terrible right now as they seemed to be suffocating. How long do you guys think that fella can last against our party leader? A charming female member of the Raging Desolate Party asked as she looked at Lin Fan curiously. 3 breaths I suppose. I don't think so. ... Time passed by the seconds and minutes. The auras of both men grew stronger than ever. Eventually, as though they had agreed on it together, the auras of the both of them began to retract back slowly. For everyone from the Raging Desolate Party, this was inconceivable. To think that this fella would be dandy and fine as though he wasn't affected by it at all. You're that Lin Fan of the Revolutionary Army that the Green Emperor was talking about. Hong Jingtian's voice was bright and loud, exuding authority without anger in it. As the voice reached Lin Fan's ears, it boomed out like thunder. That's right, Lin Fan replied indifferently. Your strength is decent, but that's all it amounts to. Our Raging Desolate Party is holding the fort in the guarded ground. If you know your place, nothing will happen to you. However, if, Hong Jingtian warned out in a harsh tone. The moment everyone heard this, their hearts leapt with joy. Seemed like the Raging Desolate Party was the party to depend on. Now that the Revolutionary Army had made such a name for themselves, it wouldn't do to not rein them in a little. Chapter 725, The Enemy Has Come Knocking. Chapter 725, The Enemy Has Come Knocking. Benefactor, this fella seems really cocky. Reverend Shakia whispered. Yes, I can see that. Lin Fan exchanged in a soft voice with Reverend Shakia. Lin Fan had no idea who he was at all. If not for the fact that those surrounding observers had said it out, he wouldn't even have known that this guy was called Hong Jingtian. Right now, everyone was secretly gloating at the sight of Lin Fan being pressed back by Hong Jingtian such that he was unable to reply at all. Seemed like this guy still had some tact left in him to know of how powerful the Raging Desolate Party of Hong Jingtian was. But something that had them all stunned happened. Lin Fan cut off the words of Hong Jingtian directly and stepped forth, sending a skyrocketing aura with an imposing voice, cut your crap in front of yours truly. I'll see you here at the missions, public square 2 days later. Let's go. Lin Fan swept his hands and took the entire Revolutionary Army into his paradise. He knew that if they were to get into a gang fight with the Raging Desolate Party right here, the Revolutionary Army would definitely lose. The physical strength of the members of the Raging Desolate Party was for real. Even if they didn't use any other skills or powers, they would be beasts in a human form. Even with the protective gear of the Revolutionary Army, they wouldn't be a match for the Raging Desolate Party. However, after their return, things would be different. All of a sudden, Lin Fan delved into the light screen and disappeared without a trace. Boom. At this moment, everyone in the public square was going wild. What did he just say? 2 days later, is he really intent on waging war against the Raging Desolate Party? Mad. The Revolutionary Army has gone mad. This is the Raging Desolate Party we're talking about. ... Hong Jingtian's face was grim right now. To think that there would be a party who would dare to challenge the Raging Desolate Party as openly as such. Even those members of the Raging Desolate Party were chuckling out right now. Haha, this Revolutionary Army is simply way too hilarious. Their courage is admirable, though, we'll just have to see if they've got what it takes to match the talk. But, this is just as well. To think that in the period of rest we're going to get after suppressing the sovereign King Heaven Frost, we would even get some entertainment. I wonder how long it has been since we've fought with another party. It's been 30 years. Ever since our Raging Desolate Party took on the seat of the top party in the guarded ground, there hasn't been any other party who had dared to provoke our Raging Desolate Party. That's right, how time flies. ... Entering the paradise, the members of the Revolutionary Army were entirely dumbstruck by everything before them. To think that the paradise of our party leader would be as such. How grand. That's right, look, there are even living beings. This is a phenomenon that can only occur after one's paradise is extremely intricately crafted. Compared to the paradise of the party leader, my paradise seems abysmally small. Amitabha, have all of you guys come to receive an electroconvulsive therapy? At this moment, the Thunder Trainer King walked out majestically. Looking at this many living beings before him, he let out a dazzling smile. It had been a long time since he had trained something. The frustration was having him pent up. Amitabha, this poor monk here is Reverend Shakya. I wonder what's your name, Master? The moment the Thunder Trainer King appeared, Reverend Shakya could sense a strong power of Buddha surging forth. The moment the Thunder Trainer King caught sight of Reverend Shakya, his eyes sparkled. All this while, he had been craving to learn that purification skill of Reverend Shakya. If he could learn it, he could go on to the next level and turn into a reforming Buddha Lord. Instantly, Reverend Shakya and the Thunder Trainer King looked at one another while chanting out Buddhist sutras and engaging in an in-depth interaction. Lin Fan had already sent out his other two essence spirits to conduct their own operations. His main body was leading the masses of the Revolutionary Army. If he were to complete all of the missions, he should have 10 million contribution points. By then, he would turn rich overnight, and would be able to exchange for anything he wanted to. Until now, Lin Fan had not checked out on the type of things he could exchange the contribution points for within the guarded ground. This was causing him to feel extremely excited. So near, yet so far. Instantly, he crossed thousands of miles. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. When Lin Fan led everyone from the Revolutionary Army out of the paradise, Reverend Shakya heaved a sigh. Benefactor, to think that there would exist a being with such a profound knowledge of Buddhism within your paradise. Reverend Shakya lamented out. The Thunder Trainer King had Reverend Shakya thoroughly convinced. Bald monk, you've met with the Thunder Trainer King. Lin Fan was stunned. The Thunder Trainer King shouldn't have trained up Reverend Shakya, right? Yes, this poor monk has met him. Our interactions were close to our hearts and I have benefited much from his knowledge. This was especially the case for that lightning-carrying mysterious object of his. It was incredible. This poor monk was about to give it a try myself before I was pulled out by you, benefactor. Reverend Shakya sighed. Phew, Lin Fan could not help but heave out a sigh of relief. Thankfully he made it in time. Otherwise, this bald monk would be in for a tragedy. Alright, here comes out first mission guys. Stay attentive guys, let's go. Lin Fan rallied as he rushed down to the small ancient race base below him. Everyone from the Revolutionary Army focused their attention. Looking at the ancient race base, their spirits were high-strung as they waved the war flag high and shouted. This was an earth-tiered lower-graded mission and it wasn't difficult at all. There was only a single divine celestial level 5 ancient race being within this base. Therefore, it was extremely carefree, without any difficulties at all. In the blink of an eye, wherever the Revolutionary Army passed, nothing remained alive. As countless of ancient race beings were drowned under the mighty assault of the Revolutionary Army, countless of living beings were salvaged with it. Each time the Revolutionary Army appeared, they would be righteous and proclaiming justice. With that, many living beings in the ancient saint world now knew of this powerful party which was the Revolutionary Army. But for the ancient race beings, this was a calamity. They did not know where this Revolutionary Army spouted out from. They were like beasts that killed ancient race beings each time they came across them. In fact, they seemed really hurried about it as they wouldn't even bother with a single word of nonsense against them. Burned to nothing, robbed to nothing, killed to nothing. This attack strategy of triple emptiness was completely glorified in the hands of the Revolutionary Army. Everyone from the Revolutionary Army was extremely excited as well. Since when had they ever had the chance to experience something like this? They could not have imagined that there would ever come a day which brought them this much happiness. Back in the guarded ground, they were always targets of discrimination for different parties. But, ever since they had joined the Revolutionary Army, they were akin to brave warriors. And, each time they saved someone, they would be akin to heroes who were revered and praised. This feeling was simply way too fabulous. One day later, the rewards for the members of the Revolutionary Army were bountiful. Lin Fan did not take in any of the riches from the ancient race beings. He allowed the members of the Revolutionary Army to keep it all for themselves. Therefore, for these members of the Revolutionary Army, this trip out here was simply way too beneficial. Benefactor, our speed may be fast, but we're only done with 50 missions so far. Reverend Shakya could not remember how many ancient race beings he had reformed this far as well. But, even with a rough calculation, they shouldn't be less than hundreds of thousands. There's no hurry. Within this day, we only have to complete another 50 more. I've already handed the rest to my essence spirits. Lin Fan replied. The moment Reverend Shakya heard this, he chuckled out, seems like Benefactor still has a trick up his sleeves. This poor monk has overthought things. Bald monk, this expression of yours is really sneaky. Is there anything? Reverend Shakia's face was a little sad. Lin Fan could tell it with a single glance. Benefactor, it's been such a long time since we've been together. As such, feelings have blossomed between us as well. But, look at this poor monk's chest here. How about you help out this poor monk a little? Reverend Shakia said. Initially, Lin Fan thought that Reverend Shakia was long used to it. To think that he would still be keeping this in his mind. But even then, there was nothing Lin Fan could do at all. Bald monk, there's really nothing I can do. If I had a solution, I would have long released you from it. Or perhaps, you might have to wait till yours truly is able to cultivate this skill to its maximum. By then, I may be able to uncover some way to do so. Lin Fan replied. Highs. Reverend Shakia sighed out, evidently exasperated. Shing. Just at this moment, a bright beam of light shot out from the void sinisterly. If not for the fact that Lin Fan's senses were extraordinarily sharp, he might not have realized it at all. Who's there? Lin Fan's face focused up as he sent out the heavenly dragon's music. A colossal dragon of power surged up and dissipated that light beam. This guy was unfriendly and extremely suspicious. Just that strike alone had Lin Fan taking notice of it. Come out before yours truly. Lin Fan's face was frosty as he grabbed out towards the void in a claw-like grip. It was as though the entire heavens were under Lin Fan's control. All of a sudden, multiple figures flashed out. With an angry opening of their mouths, a series of dragon roars rang through the heavens. The moment Lin Fan saw this, he could not help but chuckle out. So, it's the colossal dragon race of the old ancient beasts. Is there anything you guys require? Within the void, multiple elderly figures floated there with a malevolent expression, HMPH. How dare you kill the 10th prince of our race and ask us if there's anything we require? Lin Fan frowned. Seemed like the enemy had come over knocking. However, this was a huge misunderstanding. The 10th prince was living his life properly right now. And not only that, he had even cultivated one of the 3 godly skills of the colossal dragon race, the ancestor dragon's reincarnation. But naturally, the credit for all of this belonged to yours truly. If not for yours truly, would the 10th prince be able to learn the ancestor dragon's reincarnation? But now that these few colossal dragons were here to cause trouble for Lin Fan, weren't they just seeking death? With the Dragon Slayer saber, he was invincible in this world. Instantly, Lin Fan slung the Dragon Slayer saber on his shoulders and looked at the few beings from the colossal dragon race. You guys had better straighten your attitude towards yours truly. Otherwise, yours truly is going to chop you guys down. All of a sudden, the heavens and clouds surged. The Dragon Slayer saber emanated a tremendous amount of energy as it encompassed the few colossal dragons. In the minds of these few colossal dragons, an image appeared. The rivers and land were stained with the blood of an infinite number of colossal dragons. The entire heavens and earth in this place had toppled over as a sharp killing intent was spreading out all over the place. Looking at the scene, Lin Fan could not help but chuckle out. The Dragon Slayer saber was a good item indeed. From this day forth, which colossal dragon would still dare to cause any trouble for yours truly? Chapter 726. The 10th Prince is crazy. Chapter 726. The 10th Prince is crazy. There were 4 elderlies from the colossal dragon race here right now. Dragon Emperor Dao Tian, Dragon Emperor Ba Tian, Dragon Emperor Kang Mang, Dragon Emperor Zhu Wang. Within the colossal dragon race, anyone whose cultivation state reached Divine Celestial Level 8 was allowed to address themselves as a Dragon Emperor. Divine Celestial Level 9 state beings were dragon gods. As for Divine Celestial Level 10 state beings, they were ancestor dragons. However, only those who had truly obtained an eternal god seat could be called ancestor dragons. Within the colossal dragon race, it had been dozens of thousands of years since there was an eternal god seat being with the ancestor dragon title. Right now, the faces of the 4 dragon emperors were slightly pale as their foreheads were filled with sweat. The weapon that was slung on this man's shoulders was giving them an immense pressure. It was a sort of repression that struck straight into their hearts. What's that saber? Dragon Emperor Dao Tian was around 10 feet tall, with eyes as stern as a bull, gleaming with a spark to them. However, at this moment, he was showing a frantic look. The Dragon Emperor Dao Tian was someone with an unparalleled might, and had conquered over countless beings. To think that this human before him could set his heart palpitating. This was something inconceivable. Dragon Slayer saber, Lin Fan replied indifferently. He then stroked the snow-white blade of the saber. This saber specializes in slaying colossal dragons. Ancestor dragons, dragon gods, dragon emperors. Who knows how many colossal dragons it has slain? Do you know fear now? Do you know horror now? Do you know shock now? Lin Fan smirked as he looked at the 4 dragon emperors before him. Benefactor, we should get this done and over with quickly. We don't have much time left. Reverend Shakia looked at the 4 colossal dragons before him and said calmly. Even though he might not be a match for the 4 of them, Benefactor Lin was present. Things like fighting and stuff were things Benefactor Lin would naturally handle. Everyone from the Revolutionary Army looked at the 4 colossal dragons before them fixatedly. This was an eye-opener for them. To think that they would actually witness one of the top 10 old ancient beasts, the colossal dragon race. Even though they had always heard of this race, they hadn't seen them for themselves yet. This time around, it was truly quite a discovery. And the real shocker was that their party leader had actually done in the 10th prince of the colossal dragon race. This was way too imposing for everyone from the Revolutionary Army. At this moment, everyone from the Revolutionary Army looked at their party leader in awe. This was the idol in their hearts. Don't worry, bald monk. I've got this planned. Lin Fan smiled confidently as though everything was within his control. Reverend Shakia rolled his eyes. Planned my A*S. Even though the 4 dragon emperors were currently repressed by the dragon slayer saber, they were still glaring straight at Lin Fan, big words. Today, we shall capture you back and let the ancestor dragon deal with you. Come on then. Lin Fan beckoned with his hands. Seeing these few fellas, Lin Fan wasn't really interested at all. Even though they were worth a few experience points, a few, really was the best way to describe it. Lin Fan had already thought it through. If he wanted to level up, he would have to kill a minimum of 8 more divine celestial level 8 state beings. Human, your sins are grave and the heavens shall not spare you. You had better go back with us to receive your punishments. Dragon Emperor Dao Tian roared out as both palms of his began to move. All of a sudden, 2 dragon claws with 10 fingers pounced out from the heavens, carrying with them a boundless amount of dragon chi. Take control of all directions in the heavens and earth. Do not let this human escape. Dragon Emperor Kang Meng shouted out. Instantly, he let out a vast aura that resembled swimming dragons as they manifested out into multiple colossal dragons and coiled around the world, locking it within. Dragon Emperor's wrath. Invincible tremendous force. All of a sudden, the heavens and earth shook as a tremendous amount of force ruptured out. The lifespan of the colossal dragon race was boundless and their powers were profound. Because of these connate reasons, they oppressed the other living beings. A single move was enough to rattle the world so badly that even gods and ghosts would wail over it. This was indeed gut-smashing. Under the might of this aura, members of the Revolutionary Army couldn't even stand properly. They were like little boats in the middle of a gigantic tsunami, where they could be drowned at any moment. Amitabha. Reverend Shakia chanted out a Buddhist chant and a Buddha light encompassed everyone from the Revolutionary Army. With a fight of this intensity, the members of the Revolutionary Army may not be able to hold on. Even if it were just a single strain of the momentum that leaked out, it might be enough to mince them to shreds. You few colossal dragons are getting a little overboard. However, your strength is far too weak for yours truly to come at you guys personally. Since that's the case, I shall let your own 10th prince teach you guys a lesson. Lin Fan flicked his finger and his powers churned. Time suddenly came to a standstill. Roar. A series of dragon roars howled out into the 9 heavens as a yin-yang dragon burst forth from Lin Fan's paradise. To think that this yin-yang dragon was the 10th prince. The moment the 4 dragon emperors caught sight of this, their hearts could not help but tighten up as they exclaimed in disbelief. 10th prince. The body of this yin-yang dragon was 100,000 feet long, with half of its body hidden within the void. The dragon whiskers alone were thousands of feet long. Each time they swayed, the void would tremble and crack under their might. The moment the 10th prince opened his mouth, the heavenly dragon's music was used instantly. Every single harmonic turned into a single colossal dragon that struck out at the 4 dragon emperors. N-O-V-E-L-P-I-N-C-O-M. The heavenly dragon's music was a skill that was exclusive to the colossal dragon race, and wasn't passed down anywhere else. Other than the colossal dragons, no one else would be able to master them to their highest cultivation states. But of course, that was anyone except Lin Fan and his bug of a system. The 10th princes cultivated the ancestor dragon's reincarnation. The moment the 4 dragon emperors caught sight of the true body of the 10th prince, they exclaimed out in shock. How could that be? The ancestor dragon's reincarnation requires a body of yin and yang. Within this part of the world, the chi of yin and yang had long been hidden and lost, and could definitely not appear. How in the world could the 10th prince cultivate the ancestor dragon's reincarnation? Not good. The 10th prince is way stronger than before now. The might of the ancestor dragon is something that can shake the world. Dragon Emperor Dao Tian opened his huge mouth and shot out a series of sparkling golden dragon balls. There was a series of small colossal dragons coiled around each of these dragon balls. All of a sudden, the dragon balls erupted forth with an immense might as they defended against the heavenly dragon's music of the 10th prince. Ancestor dragon's reincarnation, 8th floating image. The body of the 10th prince shuddered momentarily as the void exploded out. All of a sudden, a dragon image covered the entire world as though it was a world of dragons. The illusory figures of yin and yang flashed out as a claw slapped out towards the 4 dragon emperors. Bam, bam, under this immense might, the bodies of the 4 dragon emperors began to explode out as dragon blood sprayed everywhere. There was nothing that stayed fine from head to toe. Good, this is crazy. To think that while this 10th prince had been forgotten by the side of yours truly all this while and without a single peep, he managed to cultivate his ancestor dragon's reincarnation to such a state. This is just crazy. Even though the cultivation state of the 10th prince was a divine celestial level 8 state right now, the power that was emanated out of him was unparalleled. Even the combined force of the 4 dragon emperors was not his match at all. No, I mustn't let these 4 dragon emperors die. I've got to catch them and save them so that they can cultivate the ancestor dragon's reincarnation for me. At this moment, Lin Fan had discovered new grounds with this. Once he was done with training up an entire army of colossal dragons, who could still be a match for him? 10th prince, it's us. The 4 dragon emperors had not expected the 10th prince to be this strong. This was a total and direct oppression to the point they were crying out for it to end. I guess you can stop now. Lin Fan waved his hand for the 10th prince to back down. The 10th prince, who was ready to kill those 4 dragon emperors, reverted to his human form and stood beside Lin Fan. The 4 of you have offended my master. You deserve death. The 10th prince railed out coldly. Ever since he had come to the side of this master, he had discovered the true meaning of his life. Thinking back about the things he had done in the past, what a waste of time and life those things had been. Did you guys see that? Under the nurturing care of yours truly, your 10th prince here has finally trodden on the right path. Do you guys insist on your wrongdoings? Hurry up and come join the embrace of yours truly. Yours truly will guide you guys properly and have you guys walk on the right path as well. Lin Fan said. The 4 dragon emperors exchanged a glance as their eyes shone with shock. Seems like the 10th prince has been completely controlled by this human. News of this must be transmitted back. Chapter 727, that's an impossibly explosive figure. Chapter 727, that's an impossibly explosive figure. Just what in the world have you done to the 10th prince? Dragon Emperor Dao Tian was the lead of the 4 dragon emperors. Now that the 10th prince was serving the other party, he must have been brainwashed for sure. Given their strength, there was no way they could possibly wake the 10th prince up from this. This was something that only the ancestor dragon within their race should be able to do. But, the situation right now was getting a little tricky for them to handle. The 10th prince was way too strong for them to even handle right now. Your true destiny is to submit to our master. The 10th prince stood beside Lin Fan and remarked indifferently. 10th prince, you're the 10th prince of our colossal dragon race. How can you acknowledge a human as your master? Where is your dignity as a colossal dragon? Dragon Emperor Dao Tian shouted in rage. The 4 dragon emperors here, you guys should just surrender obediently. Yours truly can guarantee that your life from this point forth will be really perfect. Lin Fan chuckled out. At the same time, he was contemplating in his mind if he should go take a tour around the base of the colossal dragon race and train up some colossal dragons so that he can glorify the ancestor dragon's reincarnation entirely. Impossible, the 4 dragon emperors roared out together. The Dragon Slayer's saber had a 100% repressing effect that caused the 4 dragon emperors to feel uncomfortable from head to toe. However, even at this moment, as nobilities of the colossal dragon race, how could they possibly bow down to this human being? This was something that was impermissible in the colossal dragon race. Since that's the case, then yours truly has no choice but to strike. Now that time was pressing, Lin Fan did not want to waste any more of it. Instantly, his body flashed as he appeared into the void. His 5 fingers took on the shape of a claw and grabbed out at the 4 dragon emperors. Insolent, the 4 of them growled out together as they transformed into their true bodies, swinging that massive dragon tail of theirs. It was so strong that the entire world quaked under the might of it. As the 4 dragon tails landed on the fingertips of Lin Fan, the only thing that appeared was a ripple of vibration. Lin Fan curled his fingers slightly as 4 chains made up of energies broke through the void and locked up the 4 dragon emperors. Damn it! The mighty chains were akin to heavenly locks that wrapped themselves tightly around the true bodies of these 4 dragon emperors. They squirmed and held out under the pressure. Clang! You guys will never be able to break out of it. In the eyes of yours truly, you guys are still far too weak. Under the pressure of the Dragon Slayer saber, Lin Fan could take down the 4 dragon emperors with extreme ease. It didn't take him any effort at all. The 4 dragon emperors bellowed out. They had realized in shock that the human's methods were even stronger than that of the 10th prince. That immense force that he sent out was like an endless abyss which was so deep that one could not make out its depths at all. Dragon Emperor's core, annihilation of all beings. You want to self-destruct. It's a pity you don't have what it takes. Lin Fan squeezed his fingers, and the bodies of the 4 dragon emperors began to shrink down as though all their bones were being crushed into dust. 4 sources of powers took on the form of thin threads that wrapped themselves around the universal elixirs of the 4 dragon emperors. Even a single drop of power wouldn't be able to leak out of those universal elixirs. Taking down 4 dragon emperors in the blink of an eye. For anyone present, such methods were absolutely horrifying. Slay! All of a sudden, a booming voice rang out from the void furiously. At the same time, there was an extremely sharp flash of light that broke through all boundaries of time and slammed out onto the fingertips of Lin Fan. Clang! Ding! Eternal God Body Experience Points plus 200,000 feet. The clanking sounds of metal clashing rang out. Unable to resist this tremendous force, Lin Fan's fingers recoiled back. Seems like you guys still have a backup. Lin Fan looked up into the void. Spitting out a mouthful of air, an infinite amount of sword wills sliced up into the void. Sir, are you bullying the colossal dragons under the assumption that we've got no one capable? An overbearing woman's voice boomed out from the void. All of a sudden, a woman wearing a heavenly battling god armor and wielding a long halberd appeared floating gently in the void with a haughty expression. Dragon Empress Shen Wu. The moment the 4 dragon emperors caught sight of who it was, their expressions turned emotional. Dragon Empress Shen Wu had a sharp gaze as her long hair seeped into the void, as though they were taking in the essence of the colossal dragon at any given moment. Waving the long halberd in her hands gently, a sharp gleam of light caused Lin Fan's infinite amount of sword wills to evaporate within the world. Divine Celestial Level 10, Eternal God State Being. Honestly, that figure of hers is the most overbearing of them all. Lin Fan squinted his eyes and could not help but stern up a little. However, he wasn't afraid in the least bit. Within the ancient saint world, there were only 4 beings of the thousands of races who had obtained an eternal God seat. All the other Divine Celestial Level 10 state beings did not get it. He had fought with the utmost being of the ancient race, Cruel, once. No matter what, Cruel was an eternal God seat being. He wasn't someone that this Dragon Empress Shen Wu could compare with. Gulp. Reverend Shakia gulped down his saliva and came beside Lin Fan. Benefactor, should we combine forces? To Reverend Shakia, the chest of this Dragon Empress Shen Wu was really way too explosive. This Mother Sea King thing didn't make any sense at all. Lin Fan glanced at Reverend Shakia once. Bald monk, it can't be that you're looking at how overbearing this figure of the Dragon Empress Shen Wu is, and plotting to do something, right? Benefactor, this poor monk is someone of the Buddha race. My 6 senses are pure. You can't slander me like this. Reverend Shakia explained hurriedly as though his mind had just been read by Lin Fan. HMPH. The moment the Dragon Empress Shen Wu heard these words, she snorted out as she broke through the void. Lin Fan pointed out with his fingers, causing the void to erupt. He then looked at the Dragon Empress Shen Wu arrogantly. Dragon Empress, the 10th prince's mind has been controlled by this human and he has lost his sense of self by now. Dragon Emperor Dao Tian shouted out. Yes, your Empress knows about it. N-O-V-E in .C Ohm. Dragon Empress Shen Wu was someone with a respectable position within the colossal dragon race, having a cultivation of divine celestial level 10 state. In theory, she should be an ancestor dragon of the colossal dragon race. However, because of her gender, she could not take on the title of the ancestor dragon. Hence, she was conferred the title of the Dragon Empress Shen Wu. The mother of all dragons. The female pride of the colossal dragon race. For every single female colossal dragon, Dragon Empress Shen Wu was the idol in their hearts. Within the colossal dragon race, the female colossal dragons only had a single role, to reproduce and breed for future generations. However, making use of her innate potential, Dragon Empress Shen Wu had managed to cultivate up to the highest state of it all and break free from the shackles that bound her, allowing her to reign as a top existence within the colossal dragon race. Dragon Empress, the Dragon Slayer saber in the hands of this man brings forth an extremely repressing amount of pressure onto us. Dragon Emperor Dao Tian's wounds were severe, and he could only slowly heal up right now. Towards the strength of this man, Dragon Emperor Dao Tian was extremely cautious. To think that even with the combined forces of the four of them, they couldn't even fend against a single blow of his. The Dragon Empress Shen Wu glared at Lin Fan coldly. Looking at the Dragon Slayer saber he was slinging over his shoulders, she frowned as well. To think that there would be a treasure that could bring forth tremendous pressure for the colossal dragons. This was something unheard of before. Even if it were her, she could feel that mounting pressure on her mind that was causing a huge restriction to her powers. Human, hand over the 10th prince and that Dragon Slayer saber. Otherwise, your empress here is going to kill you. The Dragon Empress Shen Wu commanded fiercely as a boundless killing intent infected the world. It was as limitless as the heavens' authority itself as it clashed down. Reverend Shakia could not help but stumble backward, with sweat raining down his forehead. All of a sudden, he could sense an undefeatable force that was coming his way. Everyone from the Revolutionary Army was taking in deep breaths at this moment as well. The appearance of this Dragon Empress Shen Wu had them shocked silly by now. Chapter 728. Come on, I am all prepared. Chapter 728. Come on, I'm all prepared. Lin Fan wasn't intimidated in the least bit by this Dragon Empress Shen Wu and her overbearing speeches. Based on his current strength along with the restriction of the Dragon Slayer saber, his chances of winning should be 50-50. However, as for the actual result, no one could tell for sure. Bald Monk, you and the 10th prince shall bring the others with you guys to complete the rest of the missions first. This Dragon Empress Shen Wu seemed a little tyrannical and didn't seem like she would be that easy to deal with. In order to ensure that his missions were still completed in time, Lin Fan was prepared to take action now. Benefactor, will you be alright? Reverend Shakia asked worriedly. After all, this B*TCH was a divine celestial level 10 state being. Hurry up and scram to complete the missions. Lin Fan had not expected things to take on this twist as well. Initially, he had thought that he would be able to subdue those 4 dragon emperors with ease. To think that this boss would appear. Well, one of Lin Fan's favorite activities was fighting bosses, especially if it was a boss chick. The disposition of Dragon Empress Shen Wu was valiant and her beauty was unrivaled. Actually, the most important thing was that those exploding lumps on her chest were absolutely dumbfounding. With some slight reluctance, Reverend Shakia brought the masses with him and left the place. But, how could the Dragon Empress Shen Wu let them leave this easily? However, Lin Fan blocked her path. Dragon Empress Shen Wu, your opponent is me. Unless you have what it takes to defeat yours truly, it's impossible for you to hold them back. Lin Fan remarked calmly. Courting death, Dragon Empress Shen Wu yelled out as the halberd swung through the void, slicing it into 2. The force was so devastating it could burn down the world. God battling 12 halberds. In the hands of the Dragon Empress Shen Wu, the halberd seemed to have a life of its own. Taking on a myriad of forms with extremely unusual techniques, the halberd pierced through the void, causing ripples to reverberate out. All of a sudden, Lin Fan found himself surrounded by these ripples. One by one, vortices made up of power opened up around Lin Fan. You've got some capabilities there. Lin Fan moved around continuously to evade them. Seeing this Dragon Empress Shen Wu, he was starting to grasp a bit of understanding towards her. She was really strong indeed. HMPH. Capabilities. We'll see how you defend against it. 8 Desolates, Universal Rising Dragon. The Dragon Empress Shen Wu roared out while wielding the halberd with both hands as she pummeled down the ground. Boom! The ground cracked apart as thousands of colossal dragons soared from it. Every single colossal dragon was similar to that halberd in the hands of the Dragon Empress Shen Wu as they shred through the void to attack Lin Fan with that magnitude of strength. Eternal God Body, indestructible, imperishable. Lin Fan's body jerked as a wave of energy surrounded his body with a shimmering light. Each time the colossal dragon slammed against his body, a ripple would form out. The killing intent of Dragon Empress Shen Wu flashed out as she flung her halberd. The void vibrated out as an intent of the 8 Desolates gushed forth from all directions, bringing every single law of powers onto this halberd with it. Lin Fan's brows furrowed as he sent out a punch that was vast and rampaging such that it could not be stopped. Within this punch, countless calamity doom gods bellowed out. Wherever the punch passed, nothing was left alive. Clang! The clanking sounds boomed out and quaked across the entire world. Everything in a radius of dozens of thousands of miles began to destabilize. The void was reversing its currents as they rose up turbulently and ripped out at everything in their surroundings. The battle between these two beings was so intense that even a single drop of energy could cause the saint spirit chi within the void to enter a berserk state. Catching sight of everything before them, the 4 dragon emperors were stunned. To think that this human would be able to hold up against Dragon Empress Shenwu to such a degree. No, vel, b, in dot c, ohm. Chick, watch out now. Your big brother's Dragon Slayer saber is coming. Lin Fan wielded the Dragon Slayer saber and cleaved out towards the Dragon Empress Shenwu. While the Dragon Slayer saber wasn't some sort of a crazy treasure, it wielded an innate pressure towards the colossal dragons. The strength of the Dragon Empress Shenwu was consistently being repressed down by this. A series of wild hallucinations were born in her mind, affecting her mental state right now. This Dragon Slayer saber mustn't be allowed to exist in this world, and must be destroyed. The Dragon Empress Shenwu thought in her heart. However, her hand motions did not cease because of this as a vast dragon power continued to gush forth. All of a sudden, everything between the worlds seemed to have been turned into a world of dragons, as an infinite number of dragons swam through the skies and roared out. HMPH. Seems like yours truly must play dirty now. This Dragon Empress Shenwu is really strong indeed. If not for the fact that this Dragon Slayer saber is suppressing her powers, she might have been on the advantageous side by now. Lin Fan understood this in his heart. Not only was the Dragon Empress Shenwu really formidable, her powers were really profound as well. However, with the Dragon Slayer saber he did not have to fear those things. Train, he must train this woman. If he could train up this Dragon Empress Shenwu and have her cultivate the ancestor dragon's reincarnation, the effects would definitely be explosive. However, with that, this ravishing and breathtaking Dragon Empress Shenwu would then have to turn into a big D*CK chick. At this moment, Lin Fan felt the need to take down the Dragon Empress Shenwu swiftly. While the 9-5 legendary brick did not have much use for it right now, the spirit of Bigra did. In that instant, Lin Fan slammed out with an infinite amount of palm strikes, causing the entire sky to darken down. The spirit of Bigra swam out across the world as an endless amount of mist surged out. The brows of the Dragon Empress Shenwu furrowed. However, she did not pay much attention to the mist. Human, just what sort of a background do you hail from? Now that she was unable to take down Lin Fan over a long time, the Dragon Empress Shenwu was feeling a little bewildered. How could such a powerful being be someone unheard of? Even though the ancient saint world was big, as a powerful being, she would naturally know of the other powerful beings. The moment Lin Fan saw that the Dragon Empress Shenwu wasn't guarded in the least bit against the spirit of Bigra, he was overwhelmed with joy. Hey, Big B.O. Bed Chick. You had better listen up. Yours truly is the party leader of the Revolutionary Army of the Guarded Ground, Lin Fan. From now on forth, you shall bow down to the charm of yours truly and have a taste of your brand new life. Lin Fan commented casually, and without any more trash talk, he hurled out towards the Dragon Empress Shenwu. From Lin Fan's point of view, he had to get the blood of the Dragon Empress Shenwu pumping more vigorously than ever. With that, by the time the spirit of Bigra attacked her inner heart, yours truly would be able to obtain the victory for sure. As for the effects that would come after the Dragon Empress Shenwu was triggered by the spirit of Bigra, Lin Fan naturally had some defense mechanisms against that now. He would definitely not let the issue of the Fire Water Empress repeat itself here. Something like that was a purely humiliating experience for Lin Fan. Absolute humiliation. God battling 8 desolates. At this moment, the aura behind the Dragon Empress Shenwu rocketed all of a sudden. Evidently, the fact that she was taking such a long time to take down Lin Fan was getting her a little anxious. Finally, she's going to use her ultimate move. Lin Fan could almost guarantee that the Dragon Empress Shenwu must have obtained some sort of a treasure. Otherwise, there was no way she could be so ferocious. Not only that, all the skills and divine powers that she had showcased earlier on were not skills that belonged to the colossal dragon race. Evidently, she must have had some other sort of an encounter somewhere. Yes. At the moment where the Dragon Empress Shenwu reached the peak of her aura, she underwent an unusual change as her eyes shone with an astonished look. You. The Dragon Empress Shenwu pointed her finger at Lin Fan in some disbelief. Within the heart of the Dragon Empress Shenwu, there was an irresistible energy occupying it. You what you? Are you starting to realize just how wonderful of a man yours truly is and you're having an urge to come force yourself on yours truly? Looking at the state of the Dragon Empress Shenwu, Lin Fan could not help but chuckle out. The mythical effect of the spirit of Bigra was something that Lin Fan was long familiar with. In fact, he even knew what sort of changes it would bring to one completely. If one hadn't had a chance to experience it for themselves, they would never ever know of the wondrous sensation that this would bring forth. What's wrong with the Dragon Empress? Why is her aura going all wild? Looking at the scene in the void, the 4 Dragon Emperors could not help but feel shocked. They did not know what was wrong with Dragon Empress Shenwu, but they could sense the changes going on. At this moment, Lin Fan took the initiative to stride forth and strip the clothing off his chest before raising his brows. Come on. Yours truly is prepared. The consciousness of the Dragon Empress Shenwu was gradually being replaced. This was even more pronounced when she caught sight of the perfectly defined chest muscles of Lin Fan that were oh so white. She felt her tongue going dry and thirsty as she was going to implode out from within. Mine. PSHEW. The Dragon Empress Shenwu tossed away the halberd in her hands and bolted off towards Lin Fan, unable to wait any longer. Chapter 729. Black Tiger Steel's Heart Has Evolved. Chapter 729. Black Tiger Steel's Heart Has Evolved. Dragon Empress, what's wrong with you? Your god-battling halberd has fallen. Damned human, what have you done to our Dragon Empress Shenwu? The 4 Dragon Emperors shouted out. The sight of their Dragon Empress Shenwu going insane like a madman was causing them to explode. She was all fine just moments earlier on. How had things turned like this? Highs, there's one thing that yours truly has neglected to tell you guys. Well, the thing is, your Dragon Empress Shenwu has been completely subdued by the charm of yours truly. Lin Fan shrugged his shoulders and said helplessly as though it was a troubling issue that he had such charisma. The faces of the 4 Dragon Emperors were flushed red as their eyes shone with a fiery fire. However, there was nothing they could do about this. Lin Fan had been wary of the Dragon Empress Shenwu all this while. After she was consumed by the spirit of Bigra, the power that was bursting forth from the Dragon Empress Shenwu was even stronger than normal. If she wanted to force herself on him, she wanted to force herself on him. There was no other way about it. Dragon Empress Shenwu, it seems like you're unbelievably intent on forcing yourself on yours truly. However, yours truly isn't something that's so casual about such stuff. I'm not going to let you get your way. So, you had better give up on it. Lin Fan opened his hands and his eyes were suddenly focused. Evidently, he was going to unleash a big move now. How could it be like this? The heart of the Dragon Empress Shenwu was roaring right now. However, she had no control over her body. She wanted to suppress the surging feeling, yet there was nothing she could do at all. This feeling was simply way too sinister. As a divine celestial level 10, eternal God state being, her heart was as firm and resolute as a rock. How could she be affected by something as such? B*****. While this was what the Dragon Empress Shenwu was screaming out at Lin Fan in her mind, what came out of her mouth at this moment was, I'm going to force myself on you. The moment the 4 Dragon Emperors heard this, they were stumped. To think that such words would come from the mouth of their Dragon Empress Shenwu. How could this be? The chances now. Looking at the situation before him, Lin Fan was elated. Right now, the defenses of Dragon Empress Shenwu were as good as non-existent. Your chest is so huge. However, yours truly shall be a good person all the way till the end. Time to help you turn into the #1 chest of the entire ancient saint world. Instantly, Lin Fan's eyes sparkled as his hands pushed forth like twin dragons. This pair of hands that were filled with evil were reaching out for unexplored grounds right now. I'll use my hands to fulfill your destiny. Lin Fan's face was serious and saintly right now as he sacrificed himself for the sake of others. Black Tiger Steel's Heart. All of a sudden, the heavens changed colors and the clouds started rumbling while thunder crackled. All sorts of weird phenomenon appeared as though something big was about to happen. Bam! Ah! All of a sudden, a tremendous surge of energy burst forth as Lin Fan's face changed. His powers churned and gathered all around his body. Pishu, what's going on? Just what in the world is going on? How in the world is this Dragon Empress Shenwu managing to retaliate? November LBJNN. Lin Fan was stunned as he looked at his chest. That single burst of power had caused Lin Fan's blood to rumble forth. If not for the fact that his physical body state was strong, he might have been in for it. Ah, my chest, my chestttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttttt At the same time, it was filled with an equal amount of endless pain. Lin Fan raised his head over, but he was completely flabbergasted. This. To Lin Fan's shock, the gigantic chest of Dragon Empress Shenwu had exploded. At the moment it exploded, the spirit of Bigra was dispersed out as well. Evidently, that was how strong the explosion from earlier on was. Ding! Congratulations! Black Tiger Steel's heart has leveled up. Ding, Black Tiger Steel's heart has evolved into B*OBS bursting fist. Holy FCK, this Mother Sea King thing is toying with me, right? The moment Lin Fan heard the system announce that the Black Tiger Steel's heart had evolved, he was still momentarily happy. After all, this was the first time Black Tiger Steel's heart was evolving. But, when he heard the new name, he was completely dumbfounded. This Mother CKER was toying with him. Now that he had caused those titties to explode, it was called the B*OBS bursting fist. If he had caused some balls to explode, wouldn't it have been called balls bursting fist? BOBS bursting fist. 3 punches to enlarge, 4 punches to invoke a sure blow explosion. The 4 dragon emperors who were now sitting down on the ground crippled did not know what to do any longer as they sat there frozen. They seemed as though they had just seen a ghost. To think that that part of the dragon empress Shenwu would have exploded. B****, you B****, how dare you do this to me? Do you know that I've expended 1,000 drops of godly essence to nurture it to this beautiful state? Even if I take your life, there's no way to compensate for this. I'm going to kill you. I'll kill you for sure. At this moment, Lin Fan was feeling a little awkward now. This wasn't the Mother Sea King way he had intended for things to turn out. Looking at the state of the Dragon Empress Shenwu right now, Lin Fan felt a little guilty. This was quite the sin. Initially, he had wanted to do a good thing for her. To think that things would end up like this. However, Lin Fan knew that this Dragon Empress Shenwu would be sure to bite him to the death at this point. Chick, I didn't mean it at all. Do you want me to give you another fist? Who knows, it might turn bigger. Lin Fan said. I'm going to kill you. I'll kill you, the Dragon Empress Shenwu screamed out. However, just as she was about to stand up, an irresistible amount of pain surged up into her. Thud, the Dragon Empress Shenwu collapsed to a kneel onto the ground while clutching her chest. That breathtaking face of hers was now extremely menacing looking. She raised her head and glared at Lin Fan in utmost hatred. Lin Fan pondered for a moment. This Dragon Empress Shenwu couldn't be spared. He had to train her up. However, there was something Lin Fan was upset about. This big D***CK chick was now going to turn into a big D***CK flat-chested chick. This sudden difference in quality was hard for Lin Fan to accept in a moment's notice. Even Reverend Shakia might not be able to accept something like this. It was hard to say that this wasn't a sin of its own. Highs, Dragon Empress Shenwu, this is how the cookie crumbles. At times when you cannot deny fate, I think the best way would be for you to come to terms with it. Lin Fan opened up his hand and grabbed out at that Dragon Empress Shenwu, who was unable to defend against it now. The 4 shocked Dragon Emperors were grabbed over by Lin Fan at this instant as well. Lin Fan, your Empress will surely kill you. The Dragon Empress Shenwu roared out. When she saw that humongous palm strike coming at her, she couldn't move despite wanting to block it. Courting death, Lin Fan focused his attention as his body moved instantly. In the blink of an eye, he was thousands of miles away. Boom, a gigantic dragon claw crashed down at the spot where Lin Fan was at moments earlier and exploded instantly. That initially flat ground suddenly turned into a pitch-black abyss-like trench. The moment Lin Fan saw this dragon's claw, his brows furrowed as though this was something familiar. However, the astonishing thing was that the destructive power of this dragon's claw was way too strong. FCK, she's coming at it for real. The moment Lin Fan saw that dragon's claw extending, he felt hurried instantly. He sprinted off immediately without the intent of fighting with the other party. After God knew how long he had run, Lin Fan turned his head back and saw that dragon's claw grabbing the Dragon Empress Shenwu into the void and disappearing. What a pity, to think that the Dragon Empress Shenwu would be rescued. Seems like there's going to be yet another enemy from now on. Lin Fan lamented. However, the dragon's claw seemed suspiciously similar to that gigantic hand that descended from the skies the first time he met Chicky. Lin Fan went silent for a moment as all sorts of thoughts went through his mind. If it were truly the same gigantic hand as back then, that meant that he was able to descend into the Xuanwang world. Didn't that also mean that there was some way to head down to the lower world? Seemed like if there were a chance, he should head over to the Colossal Dragon race base to take a look. Chapter 730, It's Too Difficult. Chapter 730, It's Too Difficult. Grounds of the Colossal Dragons. A colossal dragon laid prostrated on the ground with its scales letting off a gleaming golden light. Its eyes were malevolent as they looked down at the rest of the world. Shing, the void vibrated. A battered figure appeared out of nowhere. If Lin Fan were here, he would be really indifferent. Wasn't this just the exploded titty dragon empress? Damn it, I'm going to kill him. The revolutionary army of the guarded ground, I'm going to kill them all. While there weren't many physical injuries on the body of the Dragon Empress Shenwu, the pain of having one's B*OBS bursting was something that was intolerable for anyone. The Dragon Empress Shenwu was a woman as well. Therefore, she was naturally quite concerned about her looks. Unless there was an absolute need to, she would always take on the form of a human and would rarely revert to her true form. This is something we have to consider seriously. We mustn't disturb the guarded ground. Sitting on that prostrating colossal dragon was a man whose might was exuding out in all directions. He was the ancestor dragon of the colossal dragon race, possessing torrential powers. Even if the Dragon Empress Shenwu was a divine celestial level 10, eternal god state being, she wasn't his match at all. However, since he was someone who hadn't obtained an eternal god seat, he himself couldn't be compared to the guardian of the guarded ground either. Ancestor dragon, I must have him pay the price. The face of Dragon Empress Shenwu was frosty. She could not tolerate this at all. Looking at that flat airport where once stood her perky proud chest, her heart was filled with a burning rage. Just like that, my chest is gone. The Dragon Empress Shenwu's heart was bleeding out right now as her tears flowed out. Her expression was distraught, and it was anguishing to look at her. An infinite amount of vengeance plots floated through the mind of Dragon Empress Shenwu. She wanted this guy dead without a burial ground. Even if his entire corpse were minced into dust, it still wouldn't do to quench this hatred within her heart. Ancestor Dragon Wan Zun was expressionless. Using a single thought, he was able to break through all the restrictions of time and space to retrieve the Dragon Empress Shenwu. However, against that person, there was nothing he could do either. Unless his physical body were to head there, if it would be hard to kill the other party. The 10th Prince, the 4 Dragon Emperors. Even though they were important in the heart of the ancestor dragon Wan Zun, the opening of the infinite worlds was on the cusp. He had to plan for that properly. The next day, public square of the guarded ground. There were many living beings gathered here. All of them were waiting for a joke, an abnormally huge joke. The Revolutionary Army had taken on a total of 300 Earth-tiered missions, leading to a shortage of missions for all the other major and minor parties within the guarded ground. As for those heaven-tiered missions, there were only a few parties who could accomplish them. HMPH. I bet that the Revolutionary Army wouldn't be able to complete them. What's the use of taking on so many missions? What a waste of time. And they want to go against the Raging Desolate Party as well. What a bunch of fools that are tired of living. Even though each of them have a spirit weapon protective gear, the members of the Raging Desolate Party are not to be underestimated. Every single one of them possesses the power to cause a spirit weapon to burst apart. The Berserk Dragon Party and the Sword God Party were present right now as well. Ni Kuanglong's face was especially scary to look at. Ever since he was done in by the Revolutionary Army, he had turned into a laughing joke of the guarded ground. Even though there was no one who dared to openly mock him, he knew that he was the laughingstock of everyone behind his back. For Ni Kuanglong, this was something he could not endure at all. Shing, the void rippled. They're here, they're here. The Revolutionary Army has returned. Everyone held their breaths and looked at the distance fixatedly. This Revolutionary Army, which had made quite the name for themselves recently, had returned. However, most people were actually keeping their sight on Ni Kuanglong and Feng Wuxuang. Both of their parties were schooled by these guys. Therefore, both of them should be the ones who did not want the Revolutionary Army to complete the missions the most. What are you looking at? Sensing the gazes that were cast on him, Ni Kuanglong turned around and shouted out coldly. Naturally, nobody's gaze dared to linger any further. Even though the Revolutionary Army had dared to bully the Berserk Dragon Party, it didn't mean that anyone else could do the same to them. HMPH. What's he so cocky about? Didn't he get wrecked by the Revolutionary Army all the same? That's right. Actually, I'm hoping that the Revolutionary Army can complete the mission so that the Berserk Dragon Party can get a good face as a Mac again. This time around, after the return of the Revolutionary Army, even if I have to cry, whine, or threaten with suicide, I'm going to join the Revolutionary Army. Huh, aren't you from another party? What, you're going to betray your party now? November LBJNN. Betray my A*S. What I'm doing is called, getting back on the right path. That party leader of mine is way too cruel, and is practically exploiting us. All I'm getting is a measly 10 contribution points from him daily. That's not even enough for basic entertainment. Buddy, you're living life way too rough, aren't you? At least I'm getting 20 contribution points daily. At this moment, everyone from the Revolutionary Army appeared on the public square, with Lin Fan and Reverend Shakia leading the way. Suddenly, the atmosphere seemed really strange. Look at the expressions of the Revolutionary Army. They look pretty crestfallen. Could it be that they haven't managed to complete the missions? That's right, I bet that they couldn't. That's 300 Earth-tiered missions we're talking about. Do you think they're gods? Even if they don't eat and sleep, it'd be hard to complete all of them. Even though they did not manage to complete it, the Revolutionary Army is still my idol. They're way too overbearing. Later on, I must definitely treat someone from them to a drink so that he can pave the way for me to join them. That's a good idea. Instead of ridiculing them, isn't it better to help them in times of need? At this dire moment when the Revolutionary Army is at their lowest, if we can show enough care and concern, we should be able to touch their hearts. Peok, peok, peok. Suddenly, within the crowd, someone started clapping out loudly. Fight on, Revolutionary Army. That's right, even though you guys didn't manage to complete the missions, your courage is admirable. There's no other party in the guarded ground that can compare to this. These few people were applauding and cheering the Revolutionary Army on, while the rest of the audience were just jeering out instead. Ayoyo, isn't this the Revolutionary Army? How about now, didn't you guys complete your missions? Come on, take it out and let everyone else see. Looking at the expressions on everyone's faces, Ni Kuanglong could not help but laugh out as though he was filled with joy. He came before Lin Fan's face, gloating out. Ni Kuanglong did not want to say anything more at this point. All he wanted to do was mock them. As long as he could get to sneer at that face one single time, it would definitely help to soothe that indignance in his heart. Lin Fan raised his head and looked at Ni Kuanglong with a weird expression. He did not know what this retard was trying to do. Why, you're thinking of hitting me again? Why, is there no more room for freedom of speech? Ni Kuanglong ridiculed. Yes, of course there is room for freedom of speech. Lin Fan replied. However, some of the audiences began to mutter in discussions. This Ni Kuanglong is simply way too much. That's right, actually, the Revolutionary Army didn't really resort to any despicable moves or anything. That was a legitimate gang fight. Ni Kuanglong is the sore loser here. Then that's reason enough. I, Ni Kuanglong, am an advocate for freedom of speech. I speak as I deem fit. Ni Kuanglong's arrogance was about to hit the roof right now. This was an opportunity he had waited a couple of days for. Now that he could grab a chance to mock the Revolutionary Army with his heart, this was an extremely pleasurable experience. Bam! At this moment, a scene of disbelief unfolded for everyone present. Ni Kuanglong's face was flushed red like a pig's liver at this moment as he glared at Lin Fan in a stumped expression. He then knelt down with a look of pain as he clutched that precious object between his crotch. A throbbing pain of his nuts surged into his mind, causing him to lose hope towards the future. Lin Fan's right leg was lightning fast as it struck at the point with exact accuracy. He then chuckled out, "What now? Did you want to laugh at me? Why, do I have no freedom of whacking someone I don't like now? And who was the one who told you that the Revolutionary Army had not completed the missions? Brothers, tell him what's bothering you guys." Lin Fan waved out with his hands and sighed out. Seemed like it was pretty scary when people were retarded to this extent. The members of the Revolutionary Army were helpless right now. Highs, it's way too hard. Along the way, I've been thinking about how to use those contribution points. That's right, it's way too troubling. Our party leader wants us to spend all of them today. How do I even spend it all? Those brothers that had clapped just now, could I trouble you guys to come on down? Come and join our Revolutionary Army in squandering those contribution points. At this moment, the crowd was dumbfounded. These mother CKERS had been putting on an act from the very beginning. As for Lin Fan, he was just chuckling out at this moment in an extremely carefree manner. The experience points of True Origin's crushing kick had grown a little once more. Such experience points were extremely precious. It was time to collect as much as he could. Chapter 731. My arms are wide open. Come whack me. Chapter 731. My arms are wide open. Come whack me. Bald monk, do you think that we're being a little too extravagant? I don't think that this is too good. After all, one should not reveal their wealth. What if we were to attract the malicious intent of some evildoers? Look at that fella who is clutching his balls there. The look in his eye is as though he can't wait to devour me up. Lin Fan said as he pretended to be in fear. Yes, Reverend Shakia nodded his head seriously. Benefactor, I think we're quite extravagant. However, if we are, so be it then. Who should we be afraid of? This benefactor here, may I know why you're clutching your balls? Do you have some unspeakable flaw of some sort? You can tell this poor monk here. This poor monk knows of some medical knowledge. Perhaps I can perform some treatment for you, benefactor. Why you guys. Ni Kuanglong's heart was filled with hatred right now. To think that this fellow would strike over just a single disagreement. What are you guys still looking at for? Go, fight them, all of you, even if you can't win against them, go. Ni Kuanglong bellowed out to the members of his party. The members of the Berserk Dragon party looked at one another. They were no fools. If they knew they couldn't win, why should they seek out anguish for themselves? This was especially the case given how inhumane the Revolutionary Army was. They specialized in kicking that area. This was extremely traumatizing for the members of the Berserk Dragon party. A single kick was enough to cause them an unbearable pain. However, even if that were the case, there was still some commotion going on amongst the Berserk Dragon party. Revolutionary Army, you guys are too much. I can't take this. Our Berserk Dragon party aren't pushovers. At this moment, one by one, the chicks from the Berserk Dragon party stood out without any bit of fear at all. In fact, there was even a strain of anticipation on their faces as though they were waiting for something to happen. The members of the Berserk Dragon party had not expected all of their female members to walk out so fearlessly like this. They were pretty stunned with this unbelievable scene. Haha, to think that at the end of the day, you guys are the ones who would dare to stand out. Watching everything before him, Ni Kuanglong was filled with anguish in his heart. Alright, no matter the outcome, all of you guys will be rewarded greatly after this battle. The moment he was done with these words, Ni Kuanglong cast his sights at the rest of the party members. You guys. Good. The members of the Berserk Dragon party exchanged glances with one another. They knew that their party leader was infuriated right now. Once this thing blew over, their lives wouldn't be all that good either. Sisters, we shall stand with you all in battle. At this moment, the female members of the Sword God party stood out as well. At this moment, everyone was stumped. What in the world was going on today? To think that the most courageous ones to stand out would be the female members of both the parties. Had the world changed? Looking at everything before him, Feng Wuhuang was frozen as well. Which Mother Cker said that they were going to help out. Even though Feng Wuhuang hated Lin Fan secretly, his party leader had warned him severely not to seek trouble with the Revolutionary Army. Therefore, no matter how much he hated them, he had to suppress that enmity in his heart. But, to think that the chicks of the party would stand forth one by one without a single bit of fear. Feng Wuhuang was entirely speechless right now. The chicks exchanged glances with one another before nodding their heads in agreement. They wanted to turn bigger. Bigger. Sisters, let us go. Lin Fan was a little paralyzed at this point. Bald monk, what in the world do you think these chicks are up to? Benefactor, this is bewildering for this poor monk as well. Their eyes seem to be filled with an insatiable thirst, as though they're craving for something. In the blink of an eye, the chicks walked past Lin Fan and Reverend Shakia. Instead, they came before the members of the Revolutionary Army and opened their arms wide. Come on, if you're a man, whack at me. The chicks had each chosen a member of the Revolutionary Army and stood there yelling without any care for death at all. In fact, some of the chicks were even puffing up their chests. The meaning was clear, whack at our chest. Everyone from the Revolutionary Army was flabbergasted right now. This was something way too unexpected. Eventually, everyone flushed a look at Lin Fan, wondering what they should do. Even though Ni Kuanglong was infuriated in his heart, the fact that the chicks of his party would all stand forth to defend his integrity was something that moved him greatly. However, the sight before him right now was causing him to be watching with his jaws agape. What in the world was going on here? Understood. Yours truly finally understands. By now, as long as one wasn't a fool, they would be able to understand the intent of these chicks. Since they have asked for you guys to whack them, you guys should give them a beating then. Looking at the hesitation in the eyes of the Revolutionary Army members, Lin Fan eventually opened his mouth and spoke up. N-O-V-E-N.C-O-M. Yes, party leader. The members of the Revolutionary Army could not help but gulp down their saliva. They focused their attention and punched out with both fists, grabbing out at the chests of these chicks. Ah, I'm so happy right now. Even though it stings, everything will all be worth it. Big brother, could you hit me a few more times at that spot? I can still bear with the pain. Haha, it's really getting bigger, bigger. From this day forth, I'll see who else would dare to call me flat-chested ever again. ... At this moment, Ni Kuanglong finally understood as his heart sank and he spat out a mouthful of blood before fainting over instantly. Even if his cultivation state was heaven revolting, the scene before him was still a blow too deep for him to endure. Seemed like the reason for them standing out was not to save him, but to have their chests enlarged. Looking at the pitiable state of Ni Kuanglong right now, Lin Fan could not help but sigh out. No matter what place it is, no matter how high the cultivation states of the chicks may be, the number one concern in their hearts is still their figures. Bald monk, let us take our leave. From this day forth, Ni Kuanglong will forever be a crippled man. Even though this wasn't done by yours truly personally, it was still due to yours truly. Let us go for a light drink to soothe our nerves. Lin Fan said in reproach. This poor monk has the same idea. Reverend Shakia chanted some Buddhist sutras. Seeing the plight of Ni Kuanglong, he felt remorseful as well. Party leader, the revolutionary army has returned. At the same time, they've completed all 300 Earth-tiered missions. The members of the Raging Desolate Party reported in shock. This entire affair sounded like a fantasy tale. If he hadn't seen them submitting the missions for himself at the missions, public square, he wouldn't have believed this even if it cost him his life. Hong Jingtian's cultivation state was heavenly defying and his mental state was firm as a rock. There was nothing that could rattle him. However, upon hearing this news, he too was rooted at this moment. There was a look of surprise that flashed on that solemn face of his. Once everyone left the hut, he walked before the window and looked at the scenery outside while mumbling to himself, are they even humans? However, humans or not, they shall all bow down before the Raging Desolate Party tomorrow nevertheless. After handing in 300 Earth-tiered missions, the number of contribution points he received had Lin Fan pretty startled. There were a total of more than 13 million contribution points. For any party of the guarded ground, this was an astronomical number of contribution points. In fact, they could even be considered the richest party of the entire guarded ground right now. Lin Fan took away the remainder and handed the contribution points over to Reverend Shakia while he brought the other members of the Revolutionary Army out for a happy time. Right now, Lin Fan was faced with a series of items that were being introduced before him as he started taking his pick. Within the garroted ground, any contribution points that were earned could be used to exchange for items. Anything that the guarded ground possessed was available for exchange. Seems like 10,000 contribution points can be used to exchange for 1 million Shengyang pills. But damn it, this is quite the sham. 10 million contribution points can only be used to exchange for 1 billion Shengyang pills. Lin Fan was in an urgent need for Shengyang pills right now. If he were to bump into a truly powerful being, it wouldn't do to not have any Shengyang pills. By now, the demon city had already been upgraded into an utmost treasure, with a shocking amount of power to it. If he could burn up Shengyang pills for it to go berserk, the amount of power that could erupt forth from it would be unusually scary. If he had enough Shengyang pills, even if he met an utmost being of the ancient race, he would still stand a fighting chance. However, the prerequisite for this fighting chance would, of course, be for him to burn up an uncountable number of Shengyang pills. Forget it, time to see if there's anything else that's good. He was going to fight with the Raging Desolate Party tomorrow. Therefore, he needed to arrange his things properly. Otherwise, given the current strength of his party, there was no way they were going to win. Chapter 732, Blood-Bursting Fist of the North Star. Chapter 732, Blood-Bursting Fist of the North Star. Lin Fan's fingers flipped non-stop as he looked at one item after another. Infinite Buddha God Fist. Have you heard of a palm skill that descends from the heavens? That's right, this is that palm skill. All it requires is 10,000 contribution points. FCK, what's with this bullshit? Just 10,000 contribution points. A single look is enough to tell that it's worthless. Infinite Buddha my A*S. If it's an infinite Buddha skill, would it only cost a mere 10,000 contribution points? Lin Fan pursed his lips. These descriptions were really way too unethical. If not for the cheap price that betrayed their purposes, he might have truly been bluffed by their names. I've got to continue looking. Today, I must definitely find something that suits me. Lin Fan thought. Seems like the guarded ground doesn't have everything after all. The strongest treasure was only a supreme graded Dao weapon. Not only that, they were so damn expensive. Who in the world can even afford them? Lin Fan had suddenly found out that the strongest weapons in the guarded ground available for exchange were only supreme graded Dao weapons. Not only that, they required 10 million contribution points each. No one should be able to exchange for something like this in their entire lifetime, man. Blood-devouring glove. Possesses the mythical effect of robbing off the world and the powers of others. Upper graded spirit weapon. Costs 50,000 contribution points. This thingy is quite domineering, isn't it? However, the grade is a little too low. But, if yours truly were to modify it properly, some wondrous effect might come out of it. Lin Fan thought in his mind. That weapon crafting skill of his was heaven-defying. No matter what he had, he would be able to craft something out of it. Let's buy it then. I've got to buy some Shenyang pills too. Even though the mythical parasol tree is able to produce up to 300,000 Shenyang pills daily, that's barely enough to sustain the living beings within the paradise. After that, Lin Fan exchanged for 500 million Shenyang pills and sneakily hid them in his storage. He couldn't ever let the living beings within his paradise know of these Shenyang pills. Otherwise, they would all definitely act pitiful and come begging to him for Shenyang pills. Just at this moment, Lin Fan's brows furrowed as he was attracted by an item. Mythical tree branch, possesses an incredible amount of life force. Costs 1 million contribution points. Could this thingy have something to do with the mythical parasol tree? The mythical parasol tree was the #1 mythical tree in the entire ancient saint world. However, this was a thing of the past. Right now, it was already a damaged item. Although it was gradually getting better with the nurturing care of Lin Fan, it was still far from being the full mature body it once was. No matter whether it is or not, I'll buy it first and then figure it out later. The contribution points had come way too easily. Right now, Lin Fan was like a mini tycoon as he tossed around his gold like dirt, without feeling pain at all. After that, Lin Fan checked out a few more items. However, there were some ridiculous items that Lin Fan could not get at all, because they were extremely expensive. Even if Lin Fan was rich now, he still couldn't afford them. Eventually, he spent another 500,000 contribution points on spirit herbs and some materials for crafting weapons. These materials were cheap. Even materials that had a high quality were not too expensive. This gave Lin Fan quite a bit of joy. To Lin Fan, it had been a long time since he had crafted out something good. He thought back about that 7 realms of the past as well as some other nonsensical stuff. How tyrannical were those? How twisted were those? They practically instacled entire battlefields. Bloody hell, all you **stards of the ancient race, you had better hope that yours truly doesn't come up with something that can instacle you guys. Otherwise, I'm going to have you guys know why roses are so red. Lin Fan was prepared to give it his all. After all, materials were so cheap here. If he didn't give it a good shot at experimenting, he would feel uncomfortable in his heart. Eventually, Lin Fan left this place with 4 million contribution points left. The base was empty, without anyone right now. Lin Fan went into seclusion immediately. Within the house, he sat down cross-legged and took out the blood-devouring glove. Well, you shall be the first to be modified. Lin Fan tossed the blood-devouring glove into the heaven and earth smelt straight away and had it stripped down to its core instantly. Starlight of a myriad of colors shone brightly. These were all the materials and crafting techniques that were used to create the blood-devouring glove. However, to Lin Fan, those methods of crafting were way too crude, and couldn't be shown on big occasions. How could they be compared to his own crafting methods? No matter the sort of item it was, once they were tossed into the heaven and earth smelt, anything that came out depended on luck entirely. Lin Fan swept his robes as countless materials flew out of his storage. If these materials were placed within the Xuanwang world, they would be items that everyone would kill for. However, within the ancient saint world, they weren't worth jack's tea. Due to the suppression of the ancient saint world's heavens wool, the beings of the thousands of races had got to be dreaming if they wanted to craft out their own weapons. As such, this was a sweet deal for Lin Fan. For these materials to be this cheap within the ancient saint world, Lin Fan had to thank the entire family of the heavens wool in here. If not for their suppression, there was no way these materials would be this cheap. Perhaps I'll add some of this. Oh, maybe some of that too. Yes, these two materials are decent. Even though their properties may clash, they could produce an incredible effect. This will do. Even though Lin Fan's weapon crafting standards were all raised by the system itself, the combination and matching of the items in this world was something that he had a good comprehension of. Right now, wasn't it just a matter of mixing and matching some items? How could this trouble Lin Fan at all? Based on the current combination, the effects of the blood-devouring glove have been enhanced greatly. A single punch with this could truly rob the world. Lin Fan was filled with confidence towards his skills. Come on now, my little darling. Lin Fan called out as the heaven and earth smelt responded with a clang. Once upon a time, Lin Fan was filled with expectations towards weapon crafting. However, the Lin Fan right now was a well-seasoned master who did not have the same sort of excitement any longer. Given his current level of weapon crafting, any single random weapon crafted by him would be something that everyone would literally kill to get. Boom! A radiant light shone out in all directions, resulting in an unusual scenario. Ding! Congratulations on crafting success. Lin Fan was expressionless now that he was so used to all of it. Of course, it was a success. Could it even fail? Ding! Congratulations on crafting special item. The initially composed face took on a change. This was unexpected. Even though he could come out with all sorts of incredible items from time to time, this was the first time that something had gone so far out of his expectations. Unable to wait any longer, Lin Fan took out the item from the heaven and earth smelt. Looking at it carefully, his expression changed. November LBJNN. Holy FCK, isn't this just a boxing glove? Blood-bursting fist of the North Star, ungraded. Special item, every single punch shall hit with their full power and cause blood to burst forth. Legend has it that a long time ago, there existed a brave warrior named the North Star that devastated the entire world with a pair of iron fists. Using absolute power to oppress the living beings of the world, anyone who was ever bashed up was left in an extremely gory state, where their faces were practically disfigured. Ever since his fall, the pair of iron fists were lost in the world. Rumors have it that the wielder of these iron fists would be able to beat down the whole world unrivaled. Holy FCK, is this even for real? The moment Lin Fan read the description of the treasure, he was stunned. Lin Fan checked it out left and right. Yet, he could not tell anything special about this blood-bursting fist of the North Star. He then wore it in his hands. Instantly, Lin Fan bolted up. This is way too scary, isn't it? I can feel my entire body surging with energy. Lin Fan gripped his fists tightly. When he wore the blood-bursting fist of the North Star, he could feel the treasure fusing with his fist, where one couldn't even tell anything different about his fist. Lin Fan looked outside. There was no one still. He couldn't even try this out even if he wanted to. Big time. I've truly earned big time. Seems like I would have to wait till tomorrow to give it a try. Chapter 733. A good man who loved helping others. Chapter 733. A good man who loved helping others. Even though it was nighttime right now, the scenery of the guarded ground was still ever so beautiful. Good going, brother. I'm not drunk. Let's go for one more round. Today is simply the greatest. Right now, my tummy is so full I could even die. To think that I could ever afford to have a taste of the sea hell water dragon's meat in my lifetime. Everyone's had a good time, right? Let us head back for a good rest. Tomorrow will be the day we'll fight with the Raging Desolate Party. We've got to let them know of the power of our revolutionary army. That's right, what Raging Desolate Party and what not. In the face of the revolutionary army, they're nothing but limp prawns. You've drunk too much for sure. And to think that you were still worried about it earlier on. Haha. Looking at these bustling and lively members, Reverend Shakia could not help but chuckle out. But for Reverend Shakia, this was a night of continuous sinning. Drinking, cussing, looking for chicks to talk about life, etc. It was everything from the material world that he should have curbed his desires for. However, for Reverend Shakia, the most important thing was to keep Buddha in his heart at all times. Everything else wouldn't matter as much. Where has Benefactor gone to? Has any of you guys seen where the party leader is? Reverend Shakia came out of Lin Fan's house and asked puzzledly. Everyone from the Revolutionary Army was flushed red right now from drinking. They then shook their heads. No idea. We haven't seen the party leader at all. That's right. I wonder where our party leader has gone to. That's weird. Reverend Shakia shrugged his head, wondering where Benefactor Lin had gone off to. He had wanted to discuss with him about the happenings of tomorrow, yet he was gone like the wind. At this moment at a base far away, a figure was acting so furtively even though it had entered stealth mode. Based on the current strength of the Raging Desolate Party, if I don't come up with some plans to deal with them, it's going to be a complete defeat for the Revolutionary Army tomorrow for sure. Lin Fan was deep behind enemy lines right now. For the sake of victory, he was sacrificing way too much. At this moment, Lin Fan came to a stop beside a house secretively. For the action this time around, Lin Fan did not intend to alert Hong Jingtian. The battle tomorrow would definitely come down to him against Hong Jingtian. Even without the blood-bursting fist of the North Star, Lin Fan was confident that he could wallop Hong Jingtian so hard that his parents wouldn't even recognize him anymore. However, the issue lied with the other members of his revolutionary army. They were naturally no match for the other members of the Raging Desolate Party. Everything's all prepared. I've already had everyone protecting their crotches and chest area. We would definitely not be hit by the despicable moves of the Revolutionary Army. One of the members said. Yes, that's good. Head back to rest, Qin Long replied. Yes, Vice Party Leader. Lin Fan, who had been eavesdropping from the outside, was startled to think that the raging desolate party would be ready for it. Seems like I've got to take action tonight. Otherwise, it'd definitely be a tragedy for the Revolutionary Army tomorrow. As the vice party leader of the raging desolate party, Qin Long wasn't really concerned about the fight tomorrow. He could see everything clearly. The only reason why the Revolutionary Army could be shining so brightly is all due to their party leader, that human, Lin Fan. If not for him, the entire Revolutionary Army was nothing more than a bunch of ants. However, tomorrow, Lin Fan would be dealt with directly by their party leader. Hence, there was no need to bother about the other members of the Revolutionary Army anymore. Despite that, he knew that the methods of the Revolutionary Army were underhanded. Therefore, to prevent any unnecessary trouble, he had his party members make the proper preparations. Hee, not bad, you've got some capabilities. However, since you would dare to go against the Revolutionary Army of yours truly, you should be prepared for even more things. Lin Fan sniggered sinisterly as he flicked out his fingers, sending a shroud of colorless and odorless mist to seep into the house. This was the latest creation of Lin Fan. After he had exchanged for so many spirit herbs with those contribution points, it would be really easy for him to craft out some devious pills. Qin Long was thinking within the house when he frowned all of a sudden and rubbed his tummy. This is weird. All of a sudden, he was sensing a discomfort that was rising slowly in his body along with a type of pain. As time went by, the situation only got worse. Coot. A loud fart splurted out as Qin Long's face changed. His face was in shades of red and green right now. Not good. I've got to go to the restroom. By right, divine celestial cultivation state beings would not experience things such as tummy aches and the likes. After all, cultivating to such a state meant that their bodies had long undergone an evolution. The only exception was if they had consumed some pills that would alter their physical body states. Otherwise, there was no reason for things like these to happen at all. Coot, coot, each step that Qin Long took had him farting out once with a heaven-booming fart. Thankfully there's no one nearby. Otherwise, this would be one hell of an embarrassment. Qin Long checked out his surroundings and found no one around. With that, he heaved a sigh of relief. After a period of time, Qin Long took in a deep breath. Finally, the discomfort and pain from earlier had vanished entirely, and he no longer farted while walking anymore. But, the moment he got back into his house, his face changed once more. It can't be, right? Why is it back again? But, this can't be. I haven't taken any pills recently. Don't tell me that I've accidentally gone wrong in my cultivation these days or something. No, I can't hold it in anymore. I've got to go let it out. To and fro. Qin Long was about to break down right now. At the same time, his house was starting to stink up because of the incessant amount of farts he had been letting out. Qin Long was embarrassed to let anyone know about something like this. Therefore, he could only sneak around, afraid of being found out by anyone. After all, he was the vice party leader. If anyone were to find out that their vice party leader was still farting at this point in his life, he would be a laughingstock. Hidden at a dark corner, Lin Fan pinched his nose and grinned. Hee, any move of yours truly is entirely unimaginable. To think that any pills that I casually craft can create such a tremendous impact. Time to play you guys to death. From nighttime all the way to morning, I'll have you guys poop a few hundred times till your legs go wobbly. Even if your anuses are made out of metal, they would start to rust as well. Lin Fan snuck away from Qin Long's house and made his way towards the houses of the other party members. Just at this moment, a disharmonic series of sounds rang into Lin Fan's ears. Lin Fan's face was startled as he maintained his silence. Big Brother Shang, can we go for longer tonight? The voice of a dainty maiden sounded out. Fuer, we've got to fight with the Revolutionary Army tomorrow. We've got to reserve our energies. Big Brother Shang, that Revolutionary Army is really weak. You don't have to put it to your heart. You've always been so hasty all this time. But tonight, I'm really feeling the heat. Can you just satisfy me properly? We've got to have a good rest. The face of Big Brother Shang here was really awkward right now. The fact that he couldn't last long was something he was born with. No matter how high his cultivation state was, he couldn't change this fact at all. However, which man would admit to their flaws like this? In the past, he had always managed to dodge this issue with his smarts. How was he seen through this time around? Fooer, I'm going to have it shoot all out so that we can end earlier tonight and we can teach the Revolutionary Army a good lesson tomorrow. Big Brother Shang will pleasure you next time, alright. Big Brother Shang had to find a good reason right now because he knew he was going to burst soon. If he didn't say this on purpose, he would definitely be looked down upon. Big Brother Shang, can a man control when he wants to shoot out below? That's for sure, Fooer. Anytime I want to shoot, I can shoot. And now, I'm going to command it to shoot. Let Big Brother Shang show you how it's done. You count to 5 seconds and I guarantee you that I'll shoot it all. Big Brother Shang said. Ah, really? Then I'm going to start counting. The face of the chick was extremely curious right now. Short and incapable at the same time. This is one big blemish in one's life. However, thankfully, you've met with yours truly. You can thank your lucky stars for this since yours truly will never let you down. Alright, since yours truly is so kind, let me help you guys with it. Without even thinking about it, Lin Fan allowed his Bigra to seep into the room and enter the body of the man. 5. Big Brother Shang, I don't sense it. The chick had counted to 5 only to realize that her man has yet to shoot. Big Brother Shang had not expected this either. He clearly had the feeling a moment ago. What was happening now? All of a sudden, Big Brother Shang felt his entire body being filled with energy as though he could go for a good 300 rounds. His heart thumped momentarily. Could this be my third puberty spurt down there? That's right, there's no other way of explaining this then. All of a sudden, Big Brother Shang looked at the chick with an emotional expression. Fooer, I've thought about it once more. Since you're so heated up tonight, how can Big Brother Shang let you down? Ah, Big Brother Shang. This voice was extremely emotional right now. It was excited and blissful. Fooer, here I come. Having helped yet another couple who was having a disharmonious night lifestyle, Lin Fan was filled with a sense of accomplishment. With the boost of Bigra, this couple would have to say bye-bye to sleep tonight as well. Involuntarily, Lin Fan let out a sigh. He was truly a good man who loved helping others. Then, Lin Fan made his way to the other places and continued with his grand plan. This was a night that was filled with a series of disharmonious sounds. The sounds of farting, the sounds of happiness, as though they were two parts of the same melodic tune, they intertwined into one beautiful harmonic. Chapter 734, Buff activated. Prepare for war. Chapter 734, Buff activated. Prepare for war. The next day. Benefactor, where have you been last night? After Reverend Shakia woke up and stretched a little, he asked curiously. I had gone to help others. How's the preparations for our guys going? Lin Fan chuckled out. He wondered how the situation was like over at the Raging Desolate party side. Where has everyone gone to? At this moment, Reverend Shakia suddenly remembered as he turned his head around to look around. There was nobody there. Could it be that everyone was way too high last night that they're still deep in slumber right now? Lin Fan blinked his eyes, evidently exasperated. This revolutionary army of his was way too confident, weren't they? Even though the Raging Desolate party had just been FCKED by him, they should be showing some respect at their end. Reverend Shakia went around every room, checking them all out. Indeed, it was as he had suspected. All of them were lying on their beds like dead corpses, as though they had forgotten that they had something to do today. All of you better wake up for this poor monk here. Reverend Shakia dragged his throat and channeled his voice to boom out with his powers. These members of the Revolutionary Army who were deep in their dreams were shocked awake by the burst of sound. They looked at the sky outside and shrugged their heads. Suddenly, their faces changed. Holy FCK, Ayo, we're going to fight them today. Crash, boom, bam, all sorts of sounds of people waking up in a rush rang out. Before long, the entire Revolutionary Army was gathered at the public square of their base. Yes, you guys look good today. Looking at the orderly state of his members, Lin Fan nodded his head in acknowledgement. Alright, let us set forth. Majestic and grand, they headed out towards the main public square. At the public square, countless of living beings were waiting. They knew that something big was about to happen today. The Revolutionary Army and the Raging Desolate party were going to wage war. This was a huge event in the guarded ground. There were countless people who had arrived here extremely early just to reserve seats. In the eyes of the living beings of the guarded ground, the Raging Desolate party was akin to heaven, and as for the Revolutionary Army, that was earth. However, despite that, this revolutionary army was extremely formidable as well. This was especially the case for that inhumane party leader of theirs. This was a battle that had everyone's curiosities peaking. That's weird. Could we have gotten the day wrong? Why hasn't the revolutionary army and the raging desolate party arrived yet? Could both parties have forgotten about this? That's right. It's getting late now. I've been waiting here for almost 2 hours now. Look, guys, the revolutionary army is here. Holy FCK, what has the revolutionary army been through last night? Why do they all look so listless? The revolutionary army booked all the restaurants last night and ate all sort of delicacies. It was simply scary. I heard that the meal alone cost them a couple hundreds of thousands of contribution points. Holy. Achoo. As though they had yet to wake up from their slumbers, everyone from the revolutionary army were yawning and rolling their eyelids the entire day as they walked around listlessly. Honestly, they had so much fun and got so high last night that they had forgotten about the time entirely. Where's the raging desolate party? Reverend Shakia asked perplexedly. They thought that they had been late enough. To think that the raging desolate party wasn't even here yet. Lin Fan did not say anything, although he did flip a roller coaster in his heart. Could it be that yours truly's medicinal effects from last night were too strong that they couldn't even get out of bed? If that was really the case, he should have given them less medicine. They're here. The raging desolate party is here. All of a sudden, the clouds started rumbling as the winds howled. From a far distance, a killing intent was looming towards them. Tap, tap, the footsteps were intermittently present without any bit of momentum to them. Compared to the raging desolate party of the past, this was quite a huge difference. At this moment, all the audiences let out bewildered looks. What's up with this raging desolate party today as well? Why are all of them walking so strangely? That's right, they don't even seem like they have any energy at all. This is weird. Looking at the state of the raging desolate party right now, Hong Jingtian frowned. What in the world was going on right now? These members of his who were matchless in every single battle ever, why had they all turned into such a state? When Hong Jingtian asked them what happened, all of them shook their heads and denied that anything was wrong. Due to the trust between him and his members, Hong Jingtian did not probe any further. Within the crowd, Big Brother Shang, my legs are wobbly. Within the party, one of the girls was trembling with drooping eyelids, as though she could fall asleep at any moment. Fooer, me too. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I was too domineering last night. Big Brother Shang had finally experienced what it felt like to be a true man last night. However, the price for it was that when he woke up, it felt as though his entire body had been sucked dry. Furthermore, that little donger between his groin seemed as though it had been dealt a severe blow, and was limping from overexhaustion. As for the other party members, they had their personal woes. Not only had they experienced an entire night of diarrhea, they had farted the entire night as well. Their anuses were hurting beyond anything else right now. A slight movement had them feeling as though there was a fiery burn that was raging into their hearts. The pain was utterly intolerable. Now that they were on the battlefield, everyone from the raging desolate party tried their best to cover up the fatigue in their bodies. A single jerk and their expressions turned resolute. Instantly, that ferocious aura from before was exuded from them once more. Looking at the recovery of his party members, Hong Jingtian nodded his head in approval. Revolutionary Army, as you had wished, we shall go have a bout with you guys today. Hong Jingtian looked at Lin Fan and remarked calmly. He wasn't bothered about the Revolutionary Army in the least bit. To him, there were only two men with capabilities. One was the bald monk, and the other was Lin Fan. N-O-V-E-N.C-O-M. As for the other people, they were nothing but trash in the eyes of Hong Jingtian. There were many geniuses within the guarded ground. However, for the sake of survival, there were even more who were just hiding here. Under some miraculous encounter, they had gotten a chance to enter this guarded ground, which was safe from the attacks of the ancient race beings. However, at the same time, they did not want to head back out to that world that was filled with danger once more. Some of them turned into workers while others turned into waiters at the restaurants, living by with their meager amount of contribution points as salary. Hong Jingtian, today, the Revolutionary Army shall teach you what it's like to have some humanity. From this day forth, the position of the top party in the guarded ground shall have to give way. Lin Fan burst out laughing. Looking at the state of everyone within the raging desolate party right now, Lin Fan was gleeful in his heart. With the way things were right now, how would he still lose to them? Today, the Revolutionary Army would employ an oppression technique and crush the raging desolate party entirely. Big words. At this moment, some of the parties who were watching at the sides were gripping their fists tightly. They wanted the raging desolate party to win so that they could deflate the ego of this overly flamboyant revolutionary army. Good luck, brothers, crush them. Lin Fan waved his arm and instantly activated the party buff. Party Halo. Under the unparalleled guidance and leadership of the party leader, it shall bring forth a boundless amount of power for the party members. Unity Halo. Unobstructed vision of all the surroundings. This mutual compatibility will ensure that even 2 versus 4 will be of no issue. These 2 halos were gifts that were provided by the system when the party was formed. The moment Lin Fan activated the halo, the members of the Revolutionary Army found themselves filled with a boundless amount of energy. That initially lethargic feeling they had earlier on was now gone. And, the most astonishing thing is that all of a sudden, the members felt that they had gained a telepathic connection with everyone else in the party. Go on, FCK the raging desolate party to death. The moment Hong Jingtian looked at everything before him, he let out a cold smile. These were eggs that were trying to crush a rock here. They will fall just by themselves. He waved out his hand, and his party answered to this assault. Each of the members of the raging desolate party were beings who had been through countless of battles and were hardened by them. A single wave of their hands was more than enough to have all of these ants laying sprawled before them. Chapter 735, A Blood-Bursting Battle. Chapter 735, A Blood-Bursting Battle. This was a fully prepared gang fight, with a full set of buff and decent equipment sets. Each member of the Revolutionary Army had a spirit weapon protective gear. Furthermore, he had now crafted the blood-bursting fist of the North Star. Lin Fan was fully confident of obtaining victory this time around. With that, the great battle began. Everyone focused their attention. To them, this was the largest scale that a battle had turned out to reach ever in the guarded ground. The Revolutionary Army had risen really quickly. In a matter of days, the entire guarded ground knew about their existence. On the other hand, the raging desolate party was the one that had held the top dog position in the guarded ground for a long time now. Each of their members were geniuses with extremely strong prowess to their names. They were not people any common folks could match up against. In the eyes of the audience, the side that could obtain victory the easiest was naturally the raging desolate party. Even though the Revolutionary Army was decent, their foundation was still far too weak if it were to be compared with the raging desolate party. Lin Fan and Hong Jingtian glared at one another, and had yet to take action. This was a sizing up of the opponents that powerful beings would undertake before making any moves. Hong Jingtian's expression was changing rapidly. It was stern at times and slightly angered at others. It was as though he was trying to kill Lin Fan with just his gaze. Lin Fan did not fall back either. He twitched his eyelids up and down while smacking his lips from time to time. Ah! All of a sudden, this shriek broke the silence. Hong Jingtian turned his head to take a look. To his horror, he had not expected that this shriek would originate from his vice party leader, Qin Long. One of the members of the Revolutionary Army looked at his fist. He then looked at the person he had just knocked down onto the ground with a single hit. Suddenly, he grew excited. Ha ha, to think that the vice party leader of the raging desolate party would not be a match for me. All whack. This member of the Revolutionary Army was unusually emotional right now. When he was first targeted by Qin Long, he knew that bad luck had befallen him. Qin Long was a renowned powerful being. Even if he were to be compared with Hong Jingtian, he would only be that bit weaker. But now that he had sent Qin Long flying to the ground with a single punch, this member was naturally extremely arrogant right now. In fact, he even stepped forth and rode on the body of Qin Long while raining punches down just like a drizzle. At this moment, Qin Long was even harboring thoughts of suicide. How could this be? The moment Hong Jingtian caught sight of this, his face changed immediately. However, before he knew it, a punch was hurling out towards him. Hong Jingtian jerked his head back instinctively. Blood-bursting fist of the North Star. In the eyes of Hong Jingtian, this fist was only growing larger by the second. With a loud bam, it landed squarely on his face. A line of red blood sprayed out from his face and stained the sky. Good, right in the face. Lin Fan took a step back and gripped his fist before punching it up into the sky a few times. At this moment, Lin Fan's stance was akin to a boxer in a boxing ring. His legs were moving non-stop as they fluttered left and right like a butterfly. Hong Jingtian felt his face getting wet. Using his hands to rub it, he saw a patch of redness before his eyes. Why you? Hong Jingtian had not expected himself to bleed with just a single punch from the opponent. Instantly, his face turned frosty as a burning rage filled his heart. Everyone else who was watching was completely stumped by this scene right now. What's going on? Why does the raging desolate party look like they're not going to make it? That's right, Hong Jingtian was hit by the first punch straight away. The blood that's on his face right now, that's too frightening, isn't it? Look at that Qin Long. To think that a divine celestial level 4 state being is riding on him and walloping him while he can't even fight back. This must be a hallucination. It must be. The raging desolate party is so strong. How could they possibly lose to these shrimps? That member of the Revolutionary Army, he used to be the cook for our party. What? The world is changing. The world is really changing. ... Hong Jingtian, take out your true strength. Yours truly's fist is dying from hunger. Later on, yours truly is going to use a left hook to smack your left cheek. Prepare for it. Lin Fan hopped left and right while his fists were out into thin air before him right now. Bam! Left hook. Instantly, Lin Fan's feet moved as he swung out with his left hand. HMPH, courting death. Hong Jingtian's face turned into one of rage as he punched out with his fist, wanting to defend against that left hook of Lin Fan. Bam! Hong Jingtian's eyes were opened wide in disbelief. As though his face was being smashed apart, a ball of fresh blood burst forth from his face. Hong Jingtian, you're too naive. When yours truly said left hook, did you really take it to mean left hook? Lin Fan said while waving his right hand. Hong Jingtian's wrath was unstoppable as he could no longer tolerate this rage within him anymore. You are courting death. Hong Jingtian was completely incensed right now. After roaming the world of martial arts for so many years, since when had he ever been treated as such before? Back when he was younger, he was someone who had met with all sorts of miraculous encounters and inherited countless legacies. His road to the top had been a smooth sailing. If he met a strong opponent, he killed a strong opponent. At the state where he was right now, even a sovereign king wasn't someone who could faze him. And to think that he would be played with by some puny little revolutionary army right now. How is Hong Jingtian looking this terrible? Not only was he hit by both punches, his face looks entirely messed up and disfigured right now. Just what sort of a background does this Lin Fan have? To think that even Hong Jingtian would not be a match for him. Guys, look, Hong Jingtian is practically boiling right now. Seems like this is going to end with someone's life for sure. That's right, once a powerful being is aggravated, there is bound to be corpses lying around in return. And this Hong Jingtian here is a truly powerful being. The moment everyone saw this, their hearts sunk down. They knew what sort of a man Hong Jingtian was. Even though he seemed cold and indifferent usually, once he was enraged, it would be akin to a volcano erupting. Hue, I guess it's time for you to unleash your raging desolate powers, Hong Jingtian. Lin Fan said. Hong Jingtian was huffing really heavily right now with bloodshot eyes. He could not care about the blood on his face any longer as he hurled out a punch. While it did not possess any additional powers to it, the key to it was its simplicity. Now that he had cultivated to such a state, any single punch of his would possess a monstrous amount of power. N-O-V-E-L-P in.C. Hong Jingtian's name is not for show indeed. That single punch is so strong. Legend has it that Hong Jingtian has obtained the legacy of the patriarch utmost fighter, and has thus obtained the true Tao of fighting. Even a simple, ordinary punch would bring forth a myriad of transformations to it. Look at the momentum of that punch. Seems like the rumors weren't bluffing at all. I wonder how Lin Fan is going to defend against that. In my opinion, this is a really dangerous situation right now. Lin Fan looked at the punch of Hong Jingtian and let out a grin. Not bad, not bad. This punch is filled with all sorts of transformations to it. There's even the core essence of the way of the martial arts infused within. Hong Jingtian, you are strong indeed. But, it's a pity that you had to bump into someone like yours truly. Remember this, eat my left hook. Be starred, how dare you try to trick me once more? Hong Jingtian bellowed out. How would he trust Lin Fan once more? He sent a punch out towards Lin Fan's right side immediately. Bam! A fist that punched like a dragon burst forth from Lin Fan's left hook. Arghhhhhhhhhhhhhh. It was a crushing defeat for Hong Jingtian as his blood sprayed all over the place. His face was long gone by now. This blood-bursting fist of the North Star was truly tyrannical. Every single punch would strike at the flesh itself. A single punch was enough to have one bursting out with blood. Why you? Hong Jingtian howled out. He did not know what to say any longer. Hong Jingtian, are you trying to look down on me? If I say left hook, so naturally I would mean left hook. How can you not trust me? Lin Fan commented with an anguished look. It was as though he was now in deep turmoil over meeting someone who did not trust him at all. If you're a man, you had better stand up so that we can go at it for a good 300 rounds. Bystanders. Chapter 736. Are you convinced? Chapter 736. Are you convinced? Lin Fan hopped left and right with his fists, as light as the wind. Ahuehue, ahuehue. This mocking laugh was enough to have Hong Jingtian exploding entirely as a boundless amount of powers burst forth from within him. This is bad. Hong Jingtian has gone mad. This is not in line with the rules of the guarded ground. If he's going to use his inner powers, it's going to be a tragedy for this Lin Fan. What about the overseer? Somewhere in a hidden corner, the overseer was watching Lin Fan in rage. That's right, that's the way. Go and kill him. I'll definitely not come out to stop this at all. Hong Jingtian, you're playing dirty. How can you be this despicable? Lin Fan yelled out with a face of disbelief. Shameless. You're way more shameless than me. Since you dare to treat me as such, I'll definitely have you pay the price. Hong Jingtian was enraged right now as blood flowed down his face. Every single punch that landed had his blood spraying out as though it was free of charge. To Lin Fan, this was way too scary. As for the other members of the Raging Desolate Party, they were completely kneeling down in defeat in the hands of the members of the Revolutionary Army at this moment. The last night had them suffering all sorts of torments until they were feeble and weak right now. Even punching out with their fists could trigger the nerves at their anuses, bringing for them an immense pain that couldn't be described. They were members of the Raging Desolate Party. Within the guarded ground, they were a force not to be reckoned with. To think that they would be whacked kneeling by some revolutionary army right now. How could they endure this? Arg, arg. Suddenly, a series of cries rang out from all directions as powers gushed along with them. The aura rushed forth like a wave that was pushing forth. They're activating their SEED mode. Everyone from the Raging Desolate Party went into SEED mode as a boundless amount of powers gushed forth and slammed out on the Revolutionary Army, knocking them back. Raging Desolate Party, you guys are playing cheat. That's right. Since you can't beat us, you resort to using your powers. Can't you guys leave some dignity for yourselves? Lowly, despicable, underhanded, the #1 party in the guarded ground. More like the #1 party in shamelessness. What these members did not know was that the Revolutionary Army was the true #1 party in terms of shamelessness. However, in their eyes, the Revolutionary Army was a party of righteousness that carried a heavy responsibility on their shoulders. Revolutionary Army, how dare you guys bully us like this? Time to show you guys what's the meaning of true power. Everyone from the Raging Desolate Party were riled up by now. They could not endure being beaten down by a bunch of trashes. As such, they no longer paid any heed to the rules of the guarded ground. To think that the Revolutionary Army would be this strong that they could push the Raging Desolate Party to this extent. That's right. Right now, the Raging Desolate Party has lost. Highs. To think that the Raging Desolate Party would decide to go against the rules of the guarded ground. Once they take action, they would have truly broken the rules. Lin Fan, I'll have you learn the hard way. Hong Jingtian shouted out as he glared at Lin Fan with a death stare. What? So, in order to have me teach the hard way, you'll break the rules of the guarded ground? Lin Fan asked. Rules. The rules are set by the strong. And I, Hong Jingtian, am the rule. Hong Jingtian bellowed out as the aura around his body intensified. It was as though even if a single drop of the aura was to leak out, it would be enough to destroy Lin Fan entirely. Highs. Lin Fan sighed out exasperatedly. HMPH. Are you afraid now? Hong Jingtian hollered sternly. At the same time, the Revolutionary Army was retreating steadily at this moment. The moment the auras of the Berserk Desolate Party burst forth, they knew that they were going to be in a terrible position. Brat, you've had a good time whacking me earlier on, haven't you? It's my turn now. Later, I'll have you know the true meaning of consequences. The members of the Raging Desolate Party had been enduring all sorts of terrible sufferings from the start. Now that their party leader was paving the way, they naturally could not bear with it any longer as well. If these guys were to rush up, there would only be a single outcome. They would definitely die quicker than they could say the word, die. At this moment, Lin Fan took a step forward. Hong Jingtian, you're really way too audacious. To think that you would dare to disobey the rules in broad daylight. Then, you can't blame yours truly for seeking external help now that things have come to this. External help? How can there be anyone who's a match for me, Hong Jingtian, in the entire guarded ground? Hong Jingtian burst out laughing wildly, unbothered with the words of Lin Fan in the least bit. Guardian spirits, someone is trying to act insolently. Come on out. Boom. Suddenly, the void rippled. In the blink of an eye, the guardian spirits floated gently before Lin Fan. As for the overseer who had been hiding in the dark all these while, he was stunned. Impossible. How could the guardian spirits possibly follow his commands? At this moment, the overseer was not the only astonished one. Everyone present was dumbfounded. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. Just what sort of a background does this guy have? Why in the world are the guardian spirits obeying his commands? Hong Jingtian, come and strike then. Lin Fan beckoned to Hong Jingtian with his hands. Hong Jingtian's expression was frozen at this moment. He had not expected this fella here would be able to call out upon the guardian spirits. Hong Jingtian was extremely confident about his strength. However, against these guardian spirits, even he could not help but quiver. After all, there had been no one who had managed to break free from the guardian spirits at all. All of the members of the Raging Desolate party who had been taunting earlier on were now all silent, as though an entire bucket of cold water was splashed over their heads. This was a thorough dampening of their hopes. Looking at everything before him, Hong Jingtian pondered for a moment before he remarked, "Who said that I was going to strike? I was just warming up." All of a sudden, he retracted his aura. Eventually, he grit his teeth. "Come. Today, I'll fight you down to my last breath." At this moment, Lin Fan was convinced. Seemed like there was someone in this world who was even more shameless than him. Hong Jingtian was practically cursing at Lin Fan's mum within his heart at this moment. This was one hell of a sin. To think that his own party members would not be a match for those of the Revolutionary Army. Who in the world would have believed this if it was spread out? His pain and anguish were beyond words right now. Blood-bursting fist of the North Star. Suddenly, two gigantic fists appeared before the eyes of Hong Jingtian. Ahuehue, ahuehue, left hook, right hook, God fist of the North Star. Whoosh, bam, wham, boom. At this moment, Lin Fan felt as though the god of boxing was possessing his body, as every single punch he sent flying received a huge amount of blood spraying into the air in return. Hong Jingtian felt as though he was about to break down right now. He had no way of dodging the punches at all. Not only that, the infuriating thing was that every single punch that landed had him spurting out blood in all directions. It was a terrible sight to behold. Hong Jingtian's inner heart was screaming. How could his body possibly be this weak and fragile? So cruel. That's right. Could Hong Jingtian even be considered as having a human form right now? Highs. His face is entirely disfigured. From now on forth, which other party would still dare to go against the Revolutionary Army? Seems like the number one party in the guarded ground is indisputably the Revolutionary Army. A series of tragic cries rang out. Right now, Lin Fan was brutally bashing up Hong Jingtian. At the same time, all the other members were not letting down either. Using an extremely tyrannical manner, they were completely oppressing the Raging Desolate party. I admit defeat. I do. No more. At this moment, Hong Jingtian begged for mercy. He had had enough. His face was swollen extremely badly, and the blood was just painting his face red. Even by breathing in, he could smell the blood stench from his very own mouth. The only thing Hong Jingtian knew of was his brains rattling left and right. There was no room for him to fight back at all. Are you convinced? Yes, I am. Louder. Are you convinced? Yes, I am. Hong Jingtian could no longer hold it in as he held out towards the heavens. He was really convinced right now. The only thing he could beg for right now was for the beating on his face to stop. He could barely feel his face right now. Chapter 737. This poor monk is a dog if he begs you. Chapter 737. This poor monk is a dog if he begs you. The world had changed, entirely. At the moment when Hong Jingtian acknowledged his defeat, the world changed. Ha ha, Lin Fan burst out laughing. This was the speed of him reigning supreme over a single place. Speedy. However, the guarded ground wasn't a place where he would overstay at the end of the day either. After all, he had to continue raising his strength so that he could go kill the ancient race beings. Hong Jingtian, you're decent as well. For someone to be able to endure these many hits of yours truly, I'd say you're the first. You ought to be proud of yourself. Lin Fan consoled him. However, the words were piercing to hear for Hong Jingtian. What did this guy mean by him being proud of himself? Did he, Hong Jingtian, look like someone who was so easy to defeat? But given the situation right now, he did not dare to say anything more. That pair of fists hanging on Lin Fan's arms had him totally fearful. Every single punch had him spraying out blood. Was this even something that was humane? A few days later, Benefactor, why do you seem so crestfallen these days? Reverend Shakia looked at Lin Fan and could not help but ask out curiously. Lin Fan looked at the bald monk. Bald monk, recently, my mental state has been pretty restless. Honestly, I feel like something bad's about to happen. I feel like heading out to take a look. Then, this poor monk. You should just stay here. There has to be someone to watch over the revolutionary army here as well. Lin Fan said. Benefactor, you're not thinking of dumping me here, are you? Reverend Shakia asked suspiciously. Ever since his chest had been beaten to this state by Lin Fan, he had been feeling really miserable within his heart. However, as time went by, he was gradually beginning to not think so much about such things. It seemed as though he had gotten used to it. How can that be? I, Lin Fan, am a responsible man. Since I'm the one who caused it, I would naturally help you recover from it. Lin Fan said. No, vel, b, in c om. That's right, my martial arts have improved quite a bit recently. Perhaps, I may be able to help you regain your original self. The moment Reverend Shakia heard this, he was elated. Benefactor, for real. It was natural for Reverend Shakia to be overwhelmed with joy on hearing these words. However, he came back to his senses in just a moment's time. Benefactor, you had better just tell me how you intend to solve it. Otherwise, this bald monk is going to feel uneasy. It's really simple, just let me whack you a few more times and I'll have it bursting in no time. That should return you to your original state. No, don't look at me with that expression. I've experimented with it before. I've got quite a bit of confidence in this. Lin Fan looked at the wary gaze of Reverend Shakia and was a little indignant at that moment. If not for the fact that yours truly was harboring some feelings of bromance for you, I would have long abandoned you. And yet, now you're behaving as though you're distrustful of the words of yours truly. This is a downright insult of yours truly, he thought. Cough, cough, benefactor, this poor monk is absolutely trusting towards you. However, after contemplating for a moment, this poor monk thinks that it'd be better to wait this out till you have 100% confidence in it. By then, this poor monk will give it a shot, benefactor. The moment Reverend Shakia thought of the scenario that Lin Fan had described of them exploding after being whacked, he broke into a shudder. That was a little horrifying. Benefactor, when are you planning on leaving? Reverend Shakia asked. Lin Fan hesitated for a moment. Tomorrow. Ever since I came to this guarded ground, my heart has been thumping for quite some time now. It feels as though there's some sort of a feeling that's pushing me to get away from this place, from the unknowns. Reverend Shakia looked at Lin Fan before nodding his head. There's always a predetermined destiny awaiting from the unknowns. Since you can sense that feeling, you should follow your heart and leave with it, benefactor. I'm afraid that things will only get worse if you continue to linger here. Yes, Lin Fan nodded his head. Even though he hadn't pursued any cultivation on the path of Buddhism, he knew of this logic. Xing, benefactor, this is the purification skill. It's my gift for you to cultivate. Reverend Shakia raised his finger, and a golden swastika floated out of it while shining brightly. Filled with a Buddhist nature, it pushed forth while illusory figures of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Arhats, and all sorts of other phenomenon were floating around it. Bald monk, why are you so generous all of a sudden? This purification skill was something that Lin Fan had been looking forward to for a long time now. To think that this bald monk would actually gift it to him just like this right at the cusp of his departure. Benefactor, this poor monk thinks that you're insulting this poor monk by saying that. All this while, this poor monk has always been a generous person to begin with. Since you're so suspicious of this poor monk, then this poor monk shall have to take it back. What are you doing? I was just joking, that's all. How could Lin Fan let this purification skill fly away just like that? Naturally, he had to take it all in. While the Thunder Trainer King required this purification skill, he needed it even more. The thought of training up this purification skill to its final version had Lin Fan exhilarated right now. It's a pity that the great Buddha's light of purification has been lost through the times. Otherwise, all the living beings in this world would be able to get purified by it. Reverend Shakia commented regrettably. Lin Fan smiled calmly and received the golden shining swastika into his body. All of a sudden, the Thunder Trainer King yelped out. Purification, this is the skill of purification. As long as I can cultivate this to its peak, your Trainer King would be able to turn into a reformed Buddha Lord. The Thunder Trainer King pounced over with a thirsty expression on his face, wanting to devour the swastika whole. However, he was blocked away from it by Lin Fan instantly. Master, please give it to me, all right. The Thunder Trainer King asked in a pitiful manner. I'll give it to you later. Naturally, Lin Fan could not allow the Thunder Trainer King to eat this up. Otherwise, what was he to do? This purification skill was so damn blood tyrannical. If it were turned into that great Buddha's light of purification, wouldn't it be heaven revolting? Given the wisdom of yours truly, it will be enough to comprehend the great Buddha's light of purification out of this purification skill. Lin Fan declared with confidence. Brag, yes, just brag on. Can you have some shame, gosh? Reverend Shakia retorted in disbelief. Ha ha, bald monk, when yours truly comprehends the great Buddha's light of purification out of this, don't come begging me for it. Lin Fan chuckled out. It's absolutely impossible. This poor monk would be a dog if I were to beg you. Reverend Shakia tossed his head away and replied curtly. The night darkened. With a single excuse that men shouldn't get too close together, Lin Fan dismissed the bald monk away from him. Reverend Shakia looked at the bright moon in the dark night sky and suddenly felt a sense of melancholy to write a poem out of. However, he had nothing in his mind that he could think up of at this moment. Highs, Benefactor Lin is about to leave. Reverend Shakia lamented as his eyes shone with some reluctance. However, he started sniggering before long as well. This poor monk is the vice party leader of the Revolutionary Army. However, if Benefactor Lin were to leave, wouldn't this poor monk be the leader? Not bad, not bad. That would give some meaning to life. Reverend Shakia headed back towards his house as his mind was swarmed with thoughts of how he would be attended by countless members with a single call from now on. This image lingered in Reverend Shakia's mind for a long time before it went away. The more he thought about it, the more excited he got. The next day, Lin Fan left silently. However, in the words of Reverend Shakia, the party leader had just entered a closed seclusion, and would definitely not head out for another 100 years or so. For everyone from the Revolutionary Army, Lin Fan was their main support. Who knew what sort of a ruckus would occur once they caught wind of their party leader's departure? It was especially more worrying if the other parties were to start mocking the Revolutionary Army mercilessly if they knew about it. Lin Fan could definitely not have something like that happening. Chapter 738, Purification Skill. Things are going to be different from now on. Chapter 738, Purification Skill. Things are going to be different from now on. Within the void, looking at the guarded ground, Lin Fan sighed out in his heart. For anyone concerned, this guarded ground was practically a land of bliss. But, during this short period of time here, Lin Fan realized on the other hand that this guarded ground had diminished the fighting spirits of the people here. To all of them, this was a place where they could have a reliable backing. As long as they stayed within this place, they would never face any dangers. My dear disciple, you're not going to say a word of farewell to your revered master before leaving. The void rippled out like a water surface as Feng Qingzi chuckled and walked out. Lin Fan tossed a side glance at this old man. What's there to bid farewell about when I'm going to leave? This lad, seriously, you don't know a thing about respect. As your revered master, I had wanted to give you something upon seeing that you were about to leave. But, since you're so rude, forget it. You can just leave. Feng Qingzi tossed back his robes and replied impatiently. The moment Lin Fan heard this, he was stunned. Instantly, his expression changed. Ah, my dear revered master, you can't do that. Your dear disciple here was just worried about disturbing your peace and rest time. The moment he saw that there was something up for grabs, Lin Fan naturally discarded any bit of concern and bootlicked Feng Qingzi. Feng Qingzi rolled his eyes. He was now long used to this shameless behavior of his disciple. It hadn't been long since he had arrived in the guarded ground, yet he had managed to create a whole load of ruckus here. But oh well, it was good that he was going to leave. This would save Feng Qingzi a whole load of trouble. Feng Qingzi flicked out with his finger as a long river flowed out. This is 10 billion Shenyang pills here. Take care when you're outside. Huh, just 10 billion. When Lin Fan first saw the river of Shenyang pills, he had thought that there would be a few trillions at least. You little brat, your revered master here is gifting you Shenyang pills, and you are complaining that it's too little. This is something that your revered master here has cultivated relentlessly over dozens of years. Infuriating. This is way too infuriating. Feng Qingzi huffed into his beard and opened his eyes wide. This was unbearable. Come on, don't get mad now, revered master. Your disciple here was just saying, that's all. Lin Fan kept the Shenyang pills into his storage and put on a face of utmost gratitude with tears and snot. However, with these 10 billion Shenyang pills, even if he were to meet an utmost being of the ancient race, he would be able to defend himself. This here is a book of your revered master's review of his cultivation experience. Take time to read it when you're free. It will help you with your cultivation. Revered master, you're not going to hand me some 9 heavens or 10 earths godly skill? Lin Fan asked in anticipation. What the hell use does this cultivation review have? No matter what, he should have given me some secret technique, no. Lin Fan thought. The path of cultivation depends on oneself. Learning the skills of others will always cause you to be a step below them eventually. Therefore, your revered master here hopes that you can craft out your own Tao of cultivation and walk on a path that belongs to you. Feng Qingzi's face was serious right now, but he was cussing in his heart. This FC King disciple of his. Day and night, he was just trying to get something out from him. Feng Qingzi must definitely not encourage this sort of a negative behavior. Initially, he had truly intended to give some real skills along with it. But looking at the situation right now, this disciple of his was really infuriating. No more, not giving any more. Revered master, you can't do that. This poor disciple of yours only knows of a few skills to his name. What if I were to meet someone like the utmost being of the ancient race or something? Wouldn't I be walloped into a fool? Now that Lin Fan was about to leave, he had to dig out as much as he could, the more the better. Doesn't matter, your revered master's consciousness will stay by your side the entire time. Before you get whacked into a fool, your revered master will definitely save you. You can go in peace. Feng Qingzi waved his hands dismissively. Holy FCK. At this moment, Lin Fan knew that he was thoroughly defeated. Since Feng Qingzi has already said it like this, what else could he even refute it with? Eventually, Lin Fan retreated in defeat. However, no matter what, this revered master of his did have some conscience as well to give him a little something. A long streak of light bolted off. Feng Qingzi looked at the departure of Lin Fan and sighed gently before returning to the guarded ground. He did have high hopes for this disciple of his. But, he wondered how he would end up faring eventually. Lin Fan delved into the void and left the guarded ground. He then covered himself with a layer of mud color before tunneling down into the abyss, crevasses. Time to read this review of cultivation one time through first. Feng Qingzi was a divine celestial level 10, eternal god state being, who had obtained an eternal god seat. Even the thoughts of his own cultivation were something that could be considered as an utmost treasure. Lin Fan sat down cross-legged in the deep crevasses. A single breath was akin to hundreds and thousands of years. Lin Fan was akin to a stone statue right now as he didn't budge by even a single inch. Feng Qingzi's review of cultivation possessed all sorts of martial studies and comprehension towards every single state of a divine celestial. For Lin Fan, these were all irreplaceable experiences. All the skills that Lin Fan knew about were changing gradually as they readjusted themselves from head to toe. To Lin Fan, this was akin to receiving the legacy of a powerful being. Xing. After an unknown period of time, Lin Fan jerked his eyes open. With the restriction of the system, his cultivation state did not grow. However, his aura was way stronger than before. FC King imposing. This was the only thought in Lin Fan's mind right now. Master, can you pass that purification skill to me now? Within the paradise, the Thunder Trainer King asked bitterly. Hold on. Ding. Learn purification. And vel b in .c ohm. Purification. Level 1 foot. Experience points. 0.001. For Lin Fan, this was just another skill that he had to learn from the start, that was all. Lifting his finger, he started channeling the purification skill, and a strain of Buddha light coiled around him. However, it was pretty weak. FCK. Seems like if I want to train this purification skill up to a high level, I would really have to start from the very beginning. And, with the strength of this Buddha light, I'm afraid I would only be able to purify some small shrimps, that's all. However, this wasn't something difficult for Lin Fan. Wasn't this just FC King up the week? This was something that Lin Fan was extremely good at. Go and learn it properly then. Lin Fan tossed the purification skill over to the Thunder Trainer King. As though he had just received an utmost treasure, the Thunder Trainer King twerked his A*S and returned to the Academy of Electroconvulsive Therapy to give it a good research. For the Thunder Trainer King, this purification skill was indeed as good as an utmost treasure. If he could learn it to its maximum, he would be able to turn into a reformed Buddha Lord. As for that mythical tree branch that was exchanged for using contribution points, it did help the mythical parasol tree quite a fair bit. Right now, the current mythical parasol tree was able to cultivate out nearly 500,000 Shenyang pills daily. This was a huge leap of improvement in Lin Fan's opinion. However, there was only a single mythical tree branch available in the guarded ground. If there were a couple more, the effects of the mythical parasol tree would be able to explode for sure. Lin Fan returned to the surface of the earth and looked into the distance. His brows furrowed into joy. Yours truly is catching the scent of ancient race beings. And, there are quite a few of them as well. Anything that Lin Fan lacked, the world would always give. This was a feeling way too amazing for Lin Fan. Hey, since you guys had to bump into me, you can't blame yours truly for going all out. Ever since he had left the guarded ground, Lin Fan felt as though he had returned to nature. He could go anywhere he wanted as per his whims. Right now, Lin Fan only had a single goal. He wanted to have his personal strength grown to its peak. And then, he would take the chance to kill all 8 of the utmost beings of the ancient race. Towards this goal, Lin Fan was filled with confidence. After all, he was someone with the help of a system. If even now he couldn't succeed in something of this level, he would be truly living a dog's life. Far away, a group of ancient race beings sat down in a circle and were discussing. Their faces revealed menacing smiles that would have one cringing at the mere sight of it. However, they did not know that a potent force was heading in their direction right now. Chapter 739, Old Man. Old Man. Chapter 739, Old Man. Old Man. I heard that the Sovereign King Thunder and Sovereign King Heaven Frost were killed by those accursed beings at the guarded ground. The ancient race beings were discussing right now. Naturally, these were the most recent affairs that had happened. It was a big thing for the ancient race that 2 of their sovereign kings had just died. The utmost being, Saint, was even raging and asking for the ancient race to massacre those hidden living beings. That guarded ground is really going way overboard. However, there's nothing we can do about that at all. Hello. At this moment, Lin Fan appeared from the void. 1, 2, 20. Lin Fan counted carefully and nodded his head. This was a decent number of ancient race beings. Also, their cultivation states weren't all that high. None of them were at the divine celestial cultivation state. Therefore, they all belong to the tier of ants. A living being has appeared. One of the ancient race beings exclaimed out in shock before going on alert mode. After that, they started laughing out sinisterly one by one. This living being is courting death. Let us catch him and eat him up. Lin Fan looked at these ancient race beings. At the same time, he could not help but chuckle out at their words. Were these ancient race beings retarded? However, Lin Fan did not want to say much to them as well. They were nothing but ants. World of purification, land of bliss. Chanting out some sutras, Lin Fan's body shone with a brilliant shade of gold as a Buddhist light surrounded his body. His face started taking on many different forms: compassion, pity, benevolence for the world. Purify. One by one, beams of Buddha lights that possessed a will of their own turned into figures of purifying Buddhas that controlled the ancient race beings around them. All of a sudden, the menacing faces of those ancient race beings underwent a change. They were turning friendly and compassionate as though they had been benevolent people for their past 9 lives. No matter how hideous their features were, a single look at them was enough to have a favorable impression. This was the sickest part of the purification skill. No matter how evil or malicious these beings were, they would all let go of their sins at this very moment. However, Lin Fan had already understood that this purification skill was still far too weak compared to his training. The purification skill completely cleansed somebody from within. Once they were purified, they would no longer be the same beings they once were. But, training was different. Even though the act of training taught the soul a lesson, the living being would retain their original characteristics. However, both skills had their own conveniences. Purification was an area of effect attack. No matter the number of opponents, as long as one's powers were enough, they could be reformed in an instant. This was unlike training, where they had to be trained one at a time. My sins have been grave. From this day forth, I have received guidance and will no longer be the same me of the past. November LBJNN. One by one, those vile-looking ancient race beings were undergoing a change of heart. If any outsiders were to see this, they would definitely be scared shitless. This was way too inconceivable. Ding. Purification success. Experience points plus 100. Ding. Purification success. Experience points plus 100. Ding. Congratulations. Purification has leveled up. Purification. Level 2. Experience points. 1000 3000ths. Indeed, this is really strong. If I can cultivate it up to its strongest state, I wonder what things would be like then. Now that the purification skill possessed such miraculous usages, given that it was only at level 2, Lin Fan could not imagine how things would be once it turned into the great Buddha's light of purification. Go backstab and FCK up your fellow ancient race beings. Lin Fan couldn't care less about these 20 ancient race beings before him. Even if he were to kill them, they wouldn't amount to much experience. He might as well set them back loose. Given their identities, it would be easy for them to backstab and kill their fellow ancient race beings. Haha, good move, that's a good move indeed. Could this be the famed purification skill from the Buddha race? All of a sudden, the void trembled as a voice boomed out. Who's there? Come out in front of yours truly. Stop sneaking around. Lin Fan's face focused up. Where the hell did this guy spout out from? To think that he would dare to play the fool before yours truly. Instantly, 3 figures appeared. Taking a closer look, Lin Fan was stumped. The 3 of them did not seem weak at all. One of them stood upright and tall like a saber that could tear through the void. Even just by standing there, he gave off a hallucination that this was a saber instead of a man standing before them. Sharp and dazzling, nothing could stand in his way. The Saber Emperor, Song Tianhang, looked at Lin Fan coldly. Take a walk with us. Saber Emperor, your words are way too direct. You're going to scare our little buddy here. The Spear Emperor chuckled out. Spear Emperor, Saber Emperor, you guys had better not be careless. This little doll here isn't simple at all. You guys mustn't underestimate him. Elder Immortal Shu chuckled out. Little doll, this old man here is Elder Immortal Shu. Please make a trip with us. Looking at the 3 men before him, Lin Fan frowned. Where in the Mother Sea King world did these guys spout out from? Who are you guys? You think that you can get yours truly to follow you just because you wish to? That depends on how capable you guys are. Lin Fan looked at the 3 men, who didn't seem like good guys at all. At the same time, he was really anguished over this encounter of his. He had just come out not too long ago and met with something as such already. Did yours truly really have a face that others love to mock? Wherever he went, something would happen. This little doll has quite the stubborn temperament. Elder Immortal Shu chuckled out once more. In the next instant, he appeared next to Lin Fan. All of a sudden, he placed his hand on Lin Fan's shoulder. Little doll, one must always do things the right way and mustn't be too arrogant. Otherwise, one would certainly come to a bad end. Lin Fan shrugged his shoulders and channeled his energy into thin needles which pushed this hand away. Who are you guys? And who is the one who wants to see me? Lin Fan asked warily. The 3 old men were divine celestial level 9 state beings. Their auras were way fiercer than Hong Jingtian's. They were truly unparalleled existences. The 3 of them exchanged glances with one another and chuckled out while stepping forth. Saber Emperor, Song Tianhang. Spear Emperor, Chang Wuyi. Elder Immortal Shu, Shu Zizai. The smiling faces of the 3 old men were really compassionate. However, it all changed in the blink of an eye as that benevolent face of theirs turned into one that was sinister and grim. Little doll, you had better follow us obediently. Otherwise, this old man cannot guarantee that you will leave this place without broken limbs. The aura was chilling straight down to one's spines. If this were anyone else, just the aura alone would be able to freeze them into ice cubes. Broken your mother. Looking at your dispositions, could you guys be lackey dogs of the ancient race? Looking at these 3 old men, Lin Fan knew that they couldn't possibly be up to anything good. Broken limbs. They were bloody trying to threaten yours truly. Little doll, your words aren't wrong. But, you've got something wrong. The 3 of us are distinguished guests of the utmost being, Saint. We aren't any dog lackeys. Elder Immortal Shu chuckled out. Why are we wasting our breath on him? Let's just break his limbs and seal his powers before bringing him back. The Saber Emperor's aura was well kept within him. However, the moment he opened his mouth, a boundless amount of saber wills slammed forth from him. The saber wills covered the entire world and were prepared to hurt anyone right now. Saber Emperor, please hold your cool. The 3 of us have been famous for a long time now. For this little doll with a hot temper, we've got to talk nicely to him. Elder Immortal Shu floated out towards Lin Fan once more and placed his hand on his shoulder yet again. Only this time, the strength was increased 1,000 folds as it pressed down on Lin Fan's shoulder, as though he was bent on rooting Lin Fan at the spot. Are you some FC King retard? At this moment, Lin Fan could no longer hold it in. These 3 Mother CKERS were trying to act tough before yours truly. Were they tired of living? Instantly, he sent a palm strike towards the head of the old man. Ho ho, small and insignificant tricks. However, this old man isn't going to dodge. Since this little doll refuses to return with this old man can only have you understand that you're wasting your efforts. Elder Immortal Shu smiled widely with a set of white teeth that were missing a few here and there. However, something strange happened. Piok, The 9-5 legendary brick appeared in Lin Fan's hands and slapped right at the back of his head. The smile of Elder Immortal Shu was frozen there as though he was locked in time. Fainted. This FC King bloody retard. What are you doing? You know that yours truly is not simple and yet you want to try coming at yours truly head on. I'd say, does your brain have some FC King issue or something? Lin Fan's brows straightened up. This old man had got to be sick in the head. The moment they met, he had been rambling on non-stop. Couldn't he do something practical? And not only that, he fainted over by a single knock of yours truly's brick. What a weakling, which was all talk and nothing else. Chapter 740. The fourth fist is a confirmed explosion. Chapter 740. The fourth fist is a confirmed explosion. Looking at everything before them, the Saber Emperor and Spear Emperor were immediately taken aback. Brat, what have you done? The Saber Emperor naturally knew of the strength of Elder Immortal Shu. However, that brat had somehow used some unknown dark skill to render Elder Immortal Shu incapable of resistance. Grabbing onto Elder Immortal Shu, Lin Fan tossed him into his paradise directly. The tree branches of the mythical parasol tree bolted out instantly and tied him up. However, they did not suck the powers within his body. Lin Fan was waiting for the right moment to settle scores later on. Are you guys stupid or what? If you want to catch me, then come on. Cut the crap there. If you dare to look down on yours truly, this old man here would be reflective of the state of your outcome later on. Lin Fan flung the brick in his hands and threw it into his storage. The faces of the Saber Emperor and the Spear Emperor were now filled with astonishment. All of a sudden, they were looking at this fella before them in a different light. They had truly underestimated this brat. Otherwise, there was no way Elder Immortal Shu would have fallen into his hands like that. Let go of Elder Immortal Shu. The voice of the Saber Emperor blared out as a boundless saber will burst forth from him. The saber will was earth-shattering, as a gigantic saber that could slice through the entire world floated above the head of the Saber Emperor. It was as though it was going to cleave Lin Fan into half the moment he dared to resist. Oh ho, you two old fogies have got to be dreaming right now. Lin Fan chuckled, unfazed in the least bit. At the same time, he started plotting within his heart. The strength of these two old men was pretty decent. However, meeting with yours truly would only bring forth a single outcome for them, harsh oppression. But at this moment, Lin Fan's brows twitched in joy. He had suddenly thought of a good idea. Saber Emperor, Spear Emperor, do you guys wish to lose your standings in your old age? Lin Fan chuckled out. What do you mean? Startled, both of them did not know what this guy was trying to say. Hee, you'll find out in a moment. All of a sudden, like a rock that was spreading out its wings, Lin Fan leapt up and opened up both his arms as his powers rumbled. BOBS bursting fist of the North Star. Boom, all of a sudden, countless vortices appeared in the void. These vortices revolved continuously as a tremendous amount of energy was emanated out from them. What's this **T? The faces of the Saber Emperor and the Spear Emperor turned stern. This was something they had not expected. Forget it, we'll just strike first. Even though the Saber Emperor and the Spear Emperor did not know what was going on, they knew that he who struck first would have the advantage. Shing, with a saber in his hands, the Saber Emperor could rule over the world. That mighty saber will of his rumbled furiously like a colossal dragon. Shred, shred, under this relentless saber will, the void got torn apart. A single motion was enough to slice the void cleanly into two, just like a piece of paper. This was a sign of one's saber will being cultivated to its maximum potency. With just this saber will alone, even Hong Jingtian wouldn't be a match for this old man. On the side, the Spear Emperor raised his palms as a long, coiling dragon spear appeared in his hands. This spear was entirely pitch black, and let off a frosty gleam of light. A thick spear will roused up the entire world. Even this aura alone was extraordinary, and nothing to be scoffed at. The moment the tip of the spear arched, the entire world was filled with an illusion of spears as though raindrops were falling down from the sky. Brat, you've asked for this. Suddenly, the Saber Emperor and the Spear Emperor took action. This single move of theirs caused the entire void to burst out in explosions. It was as though the void itself could not handle the amount of power that was being erupted forth from these two men. November LBJNN. Highs. The void was really pitiful indeed. Each time powerful beings started fighting, they would definitely be the first to burst. If the void had a spirit within, it would definitely go mad over it. This was just downright bullying. Saber-spear fusion. Bam! An exploding sound boomed out from the world as the void was completely engulfed in a bright light. The Spear Emperor and the Saber Emperor knew that Lin Fan's powers were extraordinary. Therefore, they did not hold back and were just using their strongest powers. Clang! Lin Fan could feel his body being locked on by all sorts of gleams of light. Even if he were to delve into the void, he would not be able to escape. However, why in the world would Lin Fan want to escape? Naturally, he was going to fight it out with these two old fogies. Back when he was in the territory of the utmost being, Cruel, he was being hunted down by Cruel. Now that he was in the territory of Saint, he was being chased down by Saint. This was bloody messed up. Indeed, one would always get bullied if they were weaker than the other. BOBS bursting fist of the North Star. Boom. At this moment, the Saber Emperor and the Spear Emperor were realizing in shock that the vortexes that crowded the sky densely had suddenly closed up. One by one, humongous fists hurled out from all directions. No one could defend against this. Brazen brat, do you think that you can defeat us with something like this? The Saber Emperor shouted out along with releasing a vast aura. As he slashed out with his saber, the entire void were cleaved into two. Haha, what's so great about this move of yours? Isn't it gone with just a single slash of mine? Looking at the vortices being destroyed, the Saber Emperor burst out laughing. Spear Emperor. Cripple him. You guys are really belittling yours truly way too much. Do you know how many people have been knocked down by this B*OBS bursting fist of the North Star of yours truly? Lin Fan laughed out coldly before putting on a straight face. I'll tell you, the answer is countless. Full power. As he punched out with both fists, a mysterious amount of power floated gently in the void. All of a sudden, countless fists burst forth along with an explosive boom. HMPH. Now that my attacks are relentless, yours truly shall see how you guys defend against them. Lin Fan could dare to guarantee that these two old fogies would definitely not be able to tell where this B*OBS bursting fist of the North Star was going to hit. As long as they hit their spot, it would definitely be a tragedy for them. The Saber Emperor and the Spear Emperor focused their attention and started sensing around. Imperishable saber body. Bam. Arg. All of a sudden, the Saber Emperor cried out in pain. From out of nowhere, a pair of fists had appeared out and punched him straight in the chest. The moment they made contact with his chest, the face of the Saber Emperor turned pale. In fact, it was so white that the beard of his was almost melding into his face now. Saber Emperor. The Spear Emperor caught sight of the state of the Saber Emperor right now and was shocked. Given the strength of the Saber Emperor, how could he be turned into this state with just a single punch from the other party? Watch out. The Saber Emperor wanted the Spear Emperor to pay attention. However, before he could even finish his sentence, a tragic cry rang out from the Spear Emperor. What's this trick? How could it be? Both of them screamed out in pain, unable to understand what was going on. My chest. How in the world? The Saber Emperor and the Spear Emperor were discovering in fright that their chests were expanding out rapidly. After cultivating for hundreds of thousands of years, since when had they met with something as weird as this? How in the world could there be such a skill in this universe? Impossible. Impossible. Lin Fan had all sorts of methods of doing these two fellas in. However, the more he thought, the more he felt that he should do it with the B*OBS bursting fist of the North Star. Lin Fan was well versed with the characteristics of the B*OBS bursting fist of the North Star. 3 punches to expand, and the 4th punch for a confirmed explosion. Don't worry, yours truly is going to give you guys an emergency treatment. Soon, you guys will be able to experience the most anguishing thing in this world. Lin Fan yelled out as he could not wait any longer and slammed out with his fists once more. BOBS bursting fist of the North Star. Boom, bam, wham, thump. Well, it wasn't that Lin Fan was someone who was rude to the elderly, but these two old fogies were way too cocky. From Lin Fan's point of view, these two old fogies couldn't have been any decent people when they were younger as well. However, as time passed, even the baddies would grow older. But, since they were still so unruly after getting old, they were just courting death, weren't they? Hadn't they heard of this saying, with time, it is inevitable that the old generation will be replaced with the younger ones. And right now, Lin Fan was the new generation of baddies. At this point, Lin Fan's eyes shone with a bright gleam. Here comes the 4th fist. Explode.